Welcome back, guys. I do apologize, but I'll talk to you guys as you come back in. I'm going to be talking to you about the spirit of rejection. On today, I want to show you a video, as I mentioned in the previous one that I just so abruptly deleted. I'm going to show you a video of that's going to be a little bit disturbing. So there is a trigger warning there. There's nothing gruesome on the video. Nevertheless, there is a trigger warning. I'm going to show you a video, and then I'm going to give you 15 signs that you may be wrestling with the spirit of rejection. And it is important to note that rejection is a spirit. It is important to note that rejection is a spirit. Yes, we are back. I apologize, but I'd like to get enough people on here to just kind of give my little commentary. Y'all know that, something, I'm coming to realize that that's just something that I do. I'm not saying that I'm excusing it, and I'm not saying that that I'm not going to stop there, but that's something that I have a tendency to do. If I'm not feeling it, I just be like, you know what, let me get up out of here, or what have you. But that's neither here nor there. I wanted to talk about this because it's been on my heart to talk about. And I opened this particular video up. First and foremost, I already had the burden to talk about rejection. But when I saw this video on TikTok, when I saw that, I wouldn't scroll TikTok anymore. I left it on that video to remind myself to come talk about it. And so I wouldn't scroll away from it. So again, there's going to be a trigger warning on here because this is something that's relatively disturbing. Because at the end of the day, you have to hear this, that rejection is one of the most common spirits out there. It is one of the most common spirits out there. Especially one of the ways that a lot of us pick up rejection in the church as Christians is because we keep trying to accept what God has rejected. And you cannot reconcile light with darkness. We won't separate ourselves from the world. And whenever you are filled with the Spirit of God, you have to understand that the world will not necessarily accept you. Now they'll let you put your zeal, they'll let you put your effort, your sweat, your blood, your tears into their systems, but they're going to reject you. And also, it's important to note that just because people are in church doesn't mean that they're not worldly. It doesn't mean that they're saved. And I think that's really important to note. Because a lot of times what we have a tendency to do is we try to fit in, we try to mingle, we try to get accepted by people who God has rejected. We try to get accepted by people who God has rejected. And when I say God has rejected them, I'm not saying that they put in an application with God. I'm not saying that they're really trying to follow God. No, a lot of times people reject God. It's not that God necessarily rejects them. For the most part, God just mirrors what they do. They reject Him. They want religion. A lot of people's desire to follow God has nothing to do with them loving Him. Has nothing to do with them wanting to have a relationship with Him. It has everything to do with them wanting to have to get into heaven. Them wanting to get into heaven. I do apologize. I ran out of here. I wasn't feeling it. Honestly, I realized what was wrong too. One of the issues, I had to get up and cut that heater down. I ain't gonna lie to you. I had to cut that heater down. I was ablaze up in here. And so that was one of the things that made me relatively uncomfortable. It had nothing to do with any of you guys. Let me say that. It had nothing to do with y'all. That had everything to do with the way I was feeling in that moment. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna like this. Let me get out of here. So I want to talk about the spirit of rejection because this message could potentially save your life. This message could potentially help you because one of the things that you have to understand that I can almost guarantee you right now we're nearing 100 people, but I can guarantee you the majority of you, if not every person on here, you have had some point in time in your life, or you're probably still there, where you have brought people in close to you who deal heavily with rejection, and you have attempted to fix those people. But you weren't trying to fix them for the kingdom. You were trying to fix them for yourself. A good example is when it comes to a romantic relationship. In a romantic relationship, to get a man, now this is a rarity, saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit, God fearing, fine, walking out His purpose, to come across a man like that, rare, extremely rare, extremely rare. So what we have a tendency to do is we'll find somebody in the world or somebody who's double-minded who meets that standard. And what we'll do is we'll get them and we'll try to first We're not trying to reconcile them to God first. Now, you have to understand that everything that comes to us must first go through God to be purified. I'm going to say that again. Everything that comes to you needs to get to God first before it gets to you. Everything, every person, they need to go through God first. But what we have a tendency to do is we go out there and we try to win them for ourselves first. I'm going to make a soul tie with this dude. I'm going to do all this stuff with this dude. And then I'm going to bring him to church with me. So it's me first. I'm going to win him. I'm going to soul tie myself with him. We're going to do our thing. We're going to do all of this other stuff. And once I've secured him in a relationship, I have a soul tie with him of sorts. Then I'm going to talk to him about how important church is to me. I'm going to talk to him about how important. Matter of fact, no, I got to talk to him before we start tying our souls together. I got to start talking to him and say, you know, I'm a woman of God. I don't believe in all this. And I keep lying and manipulating, playing games. Then I find myself in, and I'm not saying me personally, I'm saying this is what Christian women do. A lot of Christian women do this. You find yourself in a bedroom with somebody trying to do evangelistic dating, having sex with him, and then trying to pretend you don't know how that happened. I don't know what happened. And then after you enter into a sexual relationship with him, you then turn around and try to bring him to church. You then try, and now we see you up in church with him standing beside you. You over there rocking, and he's standing there. He's just standing there because he didn't get to God first. The only reason he's in church is because of you. The only reason he's in church is because of you. So today I'm going to give you 15 signs that you wrestle with the spirit of rejection. Also, I'm going to show you something I saw on TikTok. And again, this is a trigger warning. This is a trigger warning that what I'm about to show you could be relatively disturbing to some people. There's no killing on here. There's nothing gruesome. It's just knowing that this man has just taken a life and is about to take somebody else's life. So I want you to pay attention to this video, and then we'll get right back into the message. I'll try to have it clear for you guys. Make sure that you like and share. Make sure that you like and share. All right. Give me a second. I'm going to have to kind of...
I got to make it quick. For everybody out there that supported me and really knows what's going on, thank you all. I've been going through a custody battle. I've been going through having my ex-wife say I molested my children and all kinds of craziness. Been fighting for custody for 3 years. So, shit has been real crazy. What's up, Oliver? You know about this. Going through it with my ex-wife, blah, blah, blah. So, start dating somebody new, and she got pregnant, and we got in the fight. First thing she does is threatening that she's going to do the same thing. You're never going to see your kids, blah, blah, blah. It's the holidays, man. I don't have no family, nothing. Anyway, I just did something crazy, man. I just shot my ex-girlfriend in the head, yo. Felt like a dream. Like, I never thought I would be that guy. I can't go to prison, so the person that really started my depression and all of this is my ex-wife. So she next, and then I'm going to do myself too. But I just wanted to say this to people. Don't play with people's emotions, man. Don't lie on these men. Oh, here's my ex-wife right here. Today's the day. But I gotta make it quick.
Sorry, y'all. Fingernail dirty. I went to look that up to see if that was authentic. And it's authentic. He killed his girlfriend, recent ex-girlfriend, and then went and killed his wife. Rejection doesn't put any consideration for the children in there, because you have to understand that demons want to raise the children. Demons want to torment the children. I saw that, and I said, I have to come live and I have to talk to people, because a lot of times, most of us think that can never be us. That can never be me. That can never be my story. That can never be my situation. That can never be me. I'm too strong of a woman. I'm too powerful of a woman. I'm a woman that don't take no nonsense. I'm a woman like this and I'm a woman like that. But the reality is that can be any one of us. And I don't know about you, I can sit here and I can look at my past and see situations where that could have easily been me. It could have easily been me, because coming across a rejected soul is as easy as going outside. Most of the times it's as easy as looking in the mirror. Coming across a rejected soul is as easy as going outside. That was on TikTok, but you can go and give me a second. You can go to Google. I typed in Baltimore nurse kills ex-wife, and you see it come up right here. I'll read one of them for you guys. You see it comes up with a search. All right, I'll read one of them for you. All right, I'll read the one from the Baltimore Sun. 3 people killed in apparent double murder suicide were all nurses, anesthesists working at Baltimore area hospitals. The 3 people killed in an apparent double murder suicide Saturday that spanned from Baltimore City to the Howard County all worked as nurse anesthesists at area hospitals. I hope I'm saying that right. Police said Reggie Sharif Black, 44, fatally shot his ex-girlfriend Tara LeBang, 41, inside a home in South Baltimore. He then traveled to Columbia and gunned down his ex-wife, Wendy Natalie Black, 42, police said. In between the killings, Reggie, who is from Hanover, stood outside his former wife's apartment building and said in a Facebook Live video that he just did something crazy. Then he says that he shot LeBang in the head and it felt like a dream. He said he planned to kill his ex-wife and himself next. Ascension St. Agnes Hospital confirmed Monday afternoon that LeBang worked at the hospital as a certified registered nurse anesthesiologist, helping administer the proper doses of the anesthesia for surgeries and other procedures during, such as epidurals. And I guess I can stop shut there because it's giving a lot of commentary. And what that helps you to understand is it's not just that's not just something isolated to people who make really low income. You will find murder suicide situations in most working class homes. You won't find that in a lot of in a lot of impoverished areas. You won't find that as common. It is typically more common in working class. You know, when it comes to white collar and stuff like that, it is more common there because people tend to have more to lose. Whenever you're dealing, for example, in poverty-stricken areas, a lot of people don't have anything to lose. And at the same time, the women, and I hate to say this, the women are a lot more broken in a lot of cases. And so it's easier to get with some of the women. And I can tell you this because I grew up in those areas. And one of the things I do remember was that I can't even say I grew up in those areas. I can't say that. I've lived in plenty of ghettos. I've lived in plenty bad neighborhoods. We moved around a lot. That's why I said that. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. And I remember one of my best friends at the time. I used to love to go to her house because, you know, they were living in like the heart of the ghetto where all the action was. And I used to love to be in the center, the most dangerous neighborhoods or what have you. I used to love to be in the center of that because in the center of those neighborhoods were typically a bunch of good looking guys, was a bunch of good looking rebellious guys. And one of the things that you have to understand is that demons are attracted to each other. When you deal with the spirit of rejection, you will typically be attracted to people who host the spirit of rebellion. You will normally be attracted to people who host the spirit of rebellion because they seem to be leaders. They are false leaders. Because the thing about it is, as women, in all our honesty, you have to learn about yourself. Women, we need security. Men do as well. Men do as well. Our security just typically looks different. And I'm going to talk about that in one of my pointers. But we need to feel we need to feel secure. And most of the times we don't feel secure in situations that are unfamiliar to us. So let me say it this way. One of the things that people oftentimes ask, I did a podcast last night. You know, I told you guys I got a secret podcast or what have you. I did a podcast and I don't even know, did I even publish it? Hold up. Did I even publish that podcast, Lord? I don't know if I finished it. Let me see, because I look like, no, I didn't finish it. So I didn't publish it. I didn't publish it. I started talking on it, and it was one of those things where, but in the podcast, one of the things I was talking about is, and it's going to seem like we're going down a rabbit hole, but I promise you we'll get back to the message. But one of the things I started talking about in the podcast was, is it hard for successful women to get in relationships? Because there's this stigma out there about successful women or what have you. And I was kind of breaking that down as to why, it may not be as easy for a successful woman to get into a relationship versus a woman, for example, who is standard, somebody who may not have the greatest job, who may not be that ambitious of a female. Why it's hard for a woman, for example, who's a lawyer, a woman who is a doctor, or what have you. Why it seems to be harder for the women like that to get in relationships. And one of the discoveries, one of the things I was talking about on the podcast, like I said, I didn't publish it, but one of the things I was talking about on the podcast is because both women and men need to feel secure. For decades, for centuries, men have had the luxury of feeling secure in their relationships and that's because right now, if you were to talk to men and women, if you talk about the dynamic, a lot of guys will start pointing back to the 30s and the 40s and stuff like that, and they will point back to that era and say the women, back then they were better. They were homemakers, they took care of their homes, they stayed with their husbands, marriages didn't end in divorce. But then you would turn around and women, if they point back to that era, they would talk about the abuse the women suffered. They would talk about the system that wouldn't allow women to work outside of jobs like healthcare. They can only be a nurse, they can only be an administrative assistant, they can only be a daycare worker or a teacher, and they made 4 times less than men. They didn't make enough income to even support themselves, and so they had no choice but to stay. They had no choice but to stay. They could not leave. And at that time, as a nation, most people were relatively uneducated. And so if a woman was to go and say to her parents, if she's married to a guy, let's say named Roger, and she says, Roger has been cheating on me and hitting on me, a lot of times they would blame her for it. They would say, you always had a flip lip. You need to keep your mouth shut sometimes. Don't argue with the man. And as far as cheating, fix yourself up. Fix yourself up. They will blame the female for that. And at that time, birth control, while it was out, it wasn't that popular. Most people didn't get into birth control because there was a religious stigma attached to birth control. And so a lot of people felt like that was like the worst thing to do. So consequently, around that era, 5 children was considered a small amount of kids. Most families had between 7 to 10 children. So you had a woman who had 7 to 10 children with her husband, who, if she was working, because a lot of women in that time did not work, if she was working, she had a job that wouldn't even support her, let alone her children. So she had to fully, wholeheartedly depend on that man. She had to fully, wholeheartedly depend on the man that she was with. So that meant that she had to endure some things. So this is around 30s and the 40s. When you start crossing over into the era of the 50s, you saw a shift, because then you start seeing a lot of feminism start to rise. You start seeing a lot of things women start dominating or trying to get into the marketplace. There started to be a lot of, a lot of protests and stuff like that. By the 60s, you start seeing women getting in the marketplace a little bit. You start seeing it seems to be kind of balancing out, but you still see a lot of women at home. And then by the 70s, it's pretty much almost broken, even though women even today still make significantly less than most of their male counterparts. You do see an increase in women taking high paying jobs nowadays. You see more doctors, more lawyers. You see a lot of things women are starting to come into the field. And so I say that rejection is new for the guy, because back in those days, men had security. No matter how toxic the guy was, he had security. Not all men were toxic. Let's go ahead and say this, because I don't like to get into that whole generalization thing. But men had the security. They had the security of knowing that she couldn't go anywhere. And whenever you're dealing with a successful woman, a lot of times a guy, he doesn't have the security of knowing that. And when I say a successful woman, I'm talking about a toxic guy, a broken guy, a guy who does not trust himself because his history with himself is that he's always cheated on every woman he's been with. He's always sabotaged every relationship. But at the same time, he's always been able to build a soul tie with a woman that was strong enough to ensure that whatever he did to her, that she would endure, she would stay there, she would try to fight her way through it, or what have you. Typically, he was the one that ended the relationship. But whenever you come across a woman, for example, who's making her own money, then that does not give him the security that he wants, because she can actually afford to live without him. She can actually afford to live without him. It brings to mind this thing that whenever I'm counseling, let's say a couple, if I'm counseling a woman that is married, and let's say her and her husband have broken up, and maybe he left her for another woman or what have you, and the woman is grieving, and the woman is talking about, he filed for divorce or she filed for divorce or what have you. And, she's like, I haven't heard from him. He's off. He's trying to build another family with somebody else. He doesn't care about me, this, that, and the other. And one of the things I tell women, and this is 1,000% true, is that men don't grieve at the rate of women. Men and women grieve differently. Whenever a man leaves a woman for another woman, he is, in his mind, he's really not leaving the other female. In his mind, even though we use the term leaving, he's simply trying to reposition them. The fights that happen is because he's just trying to reposition. He's trying to take the side chick and make her the main chick, and he's trying to push the wife into becoming the side chick. But he's mad at the wife because she won't take her new role. She won't accept her new role. So this is where all the fighting and all the craziness comes in. He's just trying to reposition. But let's say that the wife, and we're going to get into the message in a minute. Do me a favor, like and share. Let's just say that the wife decides, I'm not going to take this. I deserve better than that. There's somebody out there that would truly, genuinely love me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to file for divorce. And I'm going to put pressure on him to give me this divorce so that I can go ahead and I can start the grieving process. Now, mind you, he's probably off in another relationship, already proposed to the other woman. The other woman has already conceived. She's pregnant. He's over there having a whole family with her. So logic would dictate, just our logic would dictate that he should be like, when he get the divorce papers in, I completely agree. Let me sign it. But he's not like that. Instead, he gets those papers and he's angry. He's mad. He doesn't want to understand that, hey, you're pretty much divorcing your wife right now. She's just trying to legalize it. She's just trying to put it on paper. But he may, in many cases, delay signing the paper. He'll try to find something to fight about, like the kids. I want custody of the kids. And he really don't want custody of the kids. He's just trying to delay the divorce because he wasn't trying to get a divorce. He was just trying to switch the dynamic. He will delay things, but then let's say he finally signs papers. It's because he's mad at her. He's upset. How dare you ask me for a divorce? It's women like you. That's the reason I'm the way I am, or what have you, because he sees himself as a victim. And so what ends up happening is they go through a divorce, or the divorce finalizes, or what have you, and he still tries to utilize his children to have access to the ex-wife. He says, can I come pick up my kids? Can I this? Can I that? Can I that? And the ex-wife puts some boundaries in front of him. She says, listen, you can come pick up the kids, but we're going to have, every other weekend, like the courts have already said, you can't come pick them up. No, you can't just pop up in my house. You can't just call here. There has to be boundaries. There is always a fight in a situation like that. In almost 100% of cases, if the guy is doing that, there's almost always going to be a fight because he doesn't want to understand that you now have boundaries. You don't have a key to the house or a key to my life. You don't have the right to pull up in my driveway whenever you want to. You don't have the right to call my house whenever you want to. You can't call me at 10 o'clock asking to speak to some 8-year-olds. They're in the bed. He doesn't want to understand that. And so during that time, you may start seeing him become increasingly angry. During that time, you may start seeing him become increasingly controlling, just being very negative and condescending, even though the woman now is trying to get along with him. She's trying to be kind. She's like, listen, let's just say his name is Tyrone. Tyrone, I'm not trying to fight with you. I want us to co-parent in a healthy way. Yeah, but you just trying to keep control when I see my children. No, the courts have given you every other weekend. You did not show up for 2 weekends in a row. I'm not trying to fight with you. All I'm saying is this. If you're going to come and get your kids, You need to call me. Let me know what time you're coming. You cannot call here at this time. You can't come by my house. And he will act like she's being unreasonable when she's not. But whenever I'm counseling people like that, what I help them to understand is that he's not angry about the children. He's just starting his grieving process. Because reality is starting to kick in for him because men and women grieve at different rates. He's starting his grieving process because at this stage, once you put a hard boundary in front of him, then he realizes I don't have access to you because he has ex-girlfriends, maybe women that he has children with, that he still has access to who have not put boundaries around him. They still let him pop up. They let him destroy their relationships. They still have these one night stands with him. They still do a lot of things. And so he was able to successfully put them in a position of a concubine. But then he has this woman that won't allow him to do that. And now he becomes very angry, condescending, mean, manipulative. He uses the children. He does a lot of dirty stuff. At the end of the day, it's all centered around the fact that he is now going through a grieving process and he's now upset and he genuinely feels as if he's been victimized. He genuinely feels like this woman is doing him wrong. He genuinely feels, and this is his process. And he will go through that process until he hates his ex-wife. Now, he's not taking accountability, and we can talk about this guy here. He's not taking accountability. He's not sitting back and saying, thank you, Sister Linda. God bless you. God bless you. Love you. Thank you, sis. God bless you. But he's not taking accountability for what he's done wrong. In his mind, he genuinely feels like, hey, you have just hurt me. He genuinely feels like she is doing him wrong. He genuinely feels, and so he has to go through the process of hating her in order for him to walk away. And whenever he does cut her off, he will cut off his children as well, because the children for him were just his attempt to have access to her for the rest of his life. Because I talked about this on yesterday. When you're dealing with men, and when I say men, I'm not talking about the entire male species. I'm saying the way that God created men. God didn't create us to break up. The soul does not know how to break up. The soul doesn't understand that. And so, like I said, we have a different dynamic. And so that's why you see an increase in killings and stuff like that, is because now there is a change in the dynamic. Whereas you have more women who are relatively independent. You have more women who are making their own money, and it scares the crap out of a unsaved man or a broken man. It scares him to know that you will potentially move on. When a man leaves a relationship, it is a silly and a dangerous thing to make it very clear. Let's say if a man is cheating on you, and it's gonna save somebody's life, I believe. A man's cheating on you, and he says, "I want a divorce. I want to move on. I want to move on with my life. I'm tired of you. You're da. And he tells you all that. You're best out. The Bible says if the unbeliever wants to depart, let him depart. It is a dangerous thing for you to tell him. For example, Tyrone, I make 6 figures. Or I make 7 figures. I'll be okay without you. Go ahead. I'm not fighting with you. I ain't going to do nothing wrong to you. Go on with your life. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. You know why? Because in his mind, when he's doing all of that talking about breaking up, divorcing, when he goes and get the lawyer, he's not genuinely wanting a divorce. He's not genuinely wanting a divorce. He genuinely wants to punish you and to conform you to what he believes you ought to be. Because it has been successful. It's worked on some women. There's some women out there that are so broken that he was able to do that with them. He got them in a corner somewhere, and he's able to go out of their lives for months and years at a time and reemerge. And now he wants to do the same thing with you. So it's a dangerous thing. And you do see women doing that nowadays. You do see women that sit back and they open their mouths and they sit back and they start reminding him of, I make more money than you, right? You do know that, you can go be with her. I got the kids. I make more money than you. Child support gonna be something else. So go ahead. He kill you dead. Because the reality is it will kick in that, hey, you will move on with your life. And not only would you move on with your life, it's a dangerous thing to be a good woman to a bad man. I'm gonna drink on that. So good. Oh, it was good. It is a dangerous thing to be a good woman to a bad man. It is a dangerous thing to be a good woman to a bad man. So let's talk about this guy, the video I just showed you guys. Let's talk about him. I'm gonna let you guys, because I know a lot of you weren't on here when I showed the video. I'm gonna show the video again. Trigger warning. This can be relatively disturbing. There is no blood or killing, but it can be relatively.
I'll make it quick. For everybody out there that supported me and really knows what's going on, thank you all. I've been going through a custody battle. I've been going through having my ex-wife say I molested my children and all kinds of craziness. Been fighting for custody for 3 years. So, shit has been real crazy. What's up, Oliver? You know about this. Going through it with my ex-wife, blah, blah, blah. So, started dating somebody new, and she got pregnant. And, we got in the fight. First thing she does is threatening that she's going to do the same thing. You're never going to see your kids, blah, blah, blah. It's the holidays, man. I don't have no family, nothing. Anyway, I just did something crazy, man. I just shot my ex-girlfriend in the head, yo. Felt like a dream. Like, I never thought I would be that guy. I can't go to prison, so the person that really started my depression and all of this is my ex-wife. So she next, and then I'm going to do myself too. But I just wanted to say this to people. Don't play with people's emotions, man. Don't lie on these men. Oh, here's my ex-wife right here. Today's the day. But I gotta make it quick.
He killed her. He killed his ex-wife and his ex-girlfriend. Now, let me tell you something about an individual like this. First and foremost, I don't know his story. I can never say that somebody is a victim or the villain. But what I can do is talk about different dynamics. You guys know my story. I got two uncles that are 6 feet deep because of toxic women. But I can be honest and say I don't know the entirety of their stories. There's no justification for their deaths. Their deaths were definitely preventable. Both of them had been warned to walk away from those women, but they did not. Nevertheless, they held on. But I can say I have seen a twisted dynamic. I've seen a different dynamic. We've all seen the dynamic of the twisted toxic man as well. So there are twisted toxic women out there. There are twisted and toxic men out there. And one of the things that you have to understand when you're dealing with the spirit of rejection in a person, whether it's a male or female, whether they're black or white or Asian, it doesn't matter. When you're dealing with the spirit of rejection, one of the signs, and this is not, I don't know if it's on my list, but if it is, we'll brush past it, is that they typically have trouble taking accountability for their own wrongs. They always see themselves as a victim. They always see themselves as a victim. So in a situation like this, and like I said, I don't know their particular story, but in a situation like this, you may have a male who's in a relationship with a woman, and he has his ex-wife or what have you. Could have been cheating on her, dogging her out, But because he has a victim's mentality, because of what happened between him and his mother, he sees himself as justified in doing the stuff that he does. He feels like he genuinely, and this is the thing that it makes me interested in the human mind, but at the same time, it's something that baffles me, is that there are people out there like that. They genuinely, most of the people who kill other people genuinely not only feel entitled to the souls of those people, and it's demonic because the war is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of this dark world and spiritual wickedness in high places. But they genuinely don't have good logic. I've counseled people, and it amazes me whenever I'm coming across the narcissist or the toxic person. Their logic is just sick. It's crazy. It makes no sense. And you will have a man, for example, who is married to a woman and he's cheating on his wife and he's mishandling his wife, can be even abusive toward his wife. And you have women out there that do that to their guys as well. But let's just talk about it, on this spectrum. You have a guy out there that's doing that to his wife and will genuinely be angry with her because she's not willing to accept it. will genuinely feel like he's a victim because his wife is arguing with him when he comes home. Will genuinely feel like a victim because they can feel the breaking down of the relationship. The relationship, whenever you start bringing disrespect into the relationship, dishonor into the relationship, adultery into the relationship begins to decompose in your arms. And I can tell you, you can literally feel a relationship decomposing. You can feel it. It begins to stink. You can feel it rotting. You're sitting there in the midst of it. And a lot of times you have you'll have a guy, and this is why I say you have people with toxic logic. You will have a guy will be cheating on his wife, has a history of cheating on his wife, but in his toxic logic, he does not believe that his wife should leave him. He does not believe that his wife should question him. He does not believe that his wife should check his phone. He does not believe that his wife has any entitlement to his business. He feel like that's my business. Let me do what I do. Don't worry about what I do. He does not believe that he should get a divorce. He honestly, and there are women out there like that. I've counseled couples where the woman was the woman was the monster. She was the monster. She was out there cheating and doing her stuff and mad as heck at her husband because he starts talking about the topic of a divorce. He starts saying, "Hey, you out here in these streets, you doing your thing. I'm not going to stick with you with this or what have you." And a woman will be bitter and condescending and do a lot of wicked stuff, wicked things to that man, simply because in her logic, she believes that she is entitled to go out there and have sex with other men. She believes that she's entitled to go out there and to do whatever it is that she want to do, and he has no choice but to accept it. And the fact that he's not willing to accept it, you just like all these other men, everybody that just left me, everybody always walk out of my life, or what have you. She genuinely believes that. And these type of people, whenever you're coming across a person who has toxic logic, whenever you come across a person who has toxic logic, that person typically is more likely to kill you than anybody else because they have trouble taking accountability. They always see themselves as a victim, even when they are the villains, when they are the victimizers. When people are coming in them constantly saying, "Man, you need to stop doing that. You need to stop cheating on that woman. You need to stop hitting on that woman. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop doing that." They still see themselves as the victims. They still see themselves as the victim. And whenever you get them to the point where, if you corner them with logic, if you corner them with the truth, they become violent. They become violent because they don't like the truth being set in their face. Again, it's completely spiritual. They don't like that. For them, they just believe, because they deal with the spirit of rejection, they just believe that they should be able to go out there and explore all of their options all the while being married. And you're supposed to be at home and you're supposed to accept that. And in situations like that, you are more likely to get your life taken, because that person has toxic logic. And a person, whenever you're dealing with somebody like that, for the most part, now as human beings, typically when you're married or in a relationship, you will have a few moments where you will say something that you should not have said. You will have those times where you will say something that is just incredibly wrong because that person may have hurt you and y'all may be in the middle of a fight, and it could be like this is the sixth time this man's been cheating on you, and you may open your mouth and say something that is incredibly cruel to him. I'm talking about cruel. You may open your mouth and say something that it shocks him. It shocked him. I can think about off the top of my head some of the things I said, but something that completely shocks him or what have you. And when you're dealing with a toxic person, a lot of times they will take those words and store them. They will take those words and store them. From this point on, everything they do, they're gonna say they did it because you said that. Everything. Now, we six. This is the sixth relationship you done had. Six time you done cheated. Six female I done heard of, and now you finally get to the point where you say something like, "It's okay. You got a good looking friend anyhow. Huh? About to go have fun with your friend. You're not there with your girl. Your friend been checking me out. Go on." Now that's cold. You shouldn't say anything like that because that can get you killed. But I'm saying you may have that moment you say something cruel like that. You may have that moment you say something cruel like that. And when you're dealing with a person who wrestles with toxic logic, That right there is gold. They will take that and put it in their pocket. And what they will do is they'll hold on to that for every fight. And from this point on, everything that they do, they're going to use that as their justification. Remember what you said you was going to do to my friend? That's why I slept with your friend. Remember what you said that you were going to do? That's why I did what I did. Two can play that game. So this is one of the reasons why you want to make sure that you get healed from the spirit of rejection. You get delivered, not healed, delivered from the spirit of rejection, and then you get those voids filled, and you get the trauma healed, so that you can become a whole. Now, I want to talk to you about 15 symptoms of the spirit of rejection, and I want you to identify whether or not these are symptoms that you have. That you are wrestling with. We are setting the stage for the mass deliverance. Just so you know, I have pretty much, I can't say I picked out a day because I've already talked to my pastor about it. He's agreed. But I said I'm going to do it the first week. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull up now. But I have to, I got to make sure everybody that I want on here is available, especially my pastor. Everybody else on. Okay, let's see here. Nope, it definitely cannot be. All right. Somebody said February 2nd, 2022. I think that's the goal I would go for because I think that's I think that's a beautiful number. 22222. I think I may go for that, but well, no, because that's a Wednesday and we have Bible study. But we'll see. So thank you, Sister Cynthia. God bless you. So I'm going to give you 15 signs that you are dealing with the spirit of rejection. You can also look for this in other people, because the Bible tells us to test the spirit. How can you test the spirit if you don't familiarize yourself with demonology? If you don't familiarize yourself with the types of spirits out there, how can you test the spirit? Because what conclusion can you draw whenever somebody manifests a spirit that you know nothing of? So number one, you quit almost everything. You quit. You have a history of quitting. Every time you find yourself in something, whenever you feel a certain amount of pressure, you quit. And typically, you always find a reason to quit because in everything, the thing about life is every job you go on, there's going to be a toxic person. With every church you go in, there are going to be toxic people. Every relationship you go get in, there's going to be degrees of toxicity. There's toxicity everywhere. There's toxicity everywhere. But you have a tendency, you choose what you will stay in a relationship with a toxic man who kicks your butt but quit a job because of a toxic female who just rolls her eyes at you. You are a professional quitter. You are a professional quitter, which brings me, I had forgot, I went upstairs and I was like, dang, and I came downstairs, um, and I could not, I was like, I gotta write that down. And I couldn't think of it. And I said to myself, I said, it's gonna come to you when you go live, and it just did. So we got 16 now. But you quit almost everything. Almost everything. If many of you don't even give yourself the chance. Okay, I've been talking about mentorship, and this is not me trying to push the mentorship, but I am saying get into the mentorship. A lot of you want the mentorship, but you won't do it because you know you're gonna quit. You don't trust yourself. You have broken trust with yourself so much that you've never done a year in anything. It's difficult for you to read a book in its entirety. You have trouble with commitment, and so consequently, you just don't even start. You don't like to get into churches because you know you're not gonna go there. You know you're gonna quit. You know you're gonna get offended. Let me tell you this: your emotions are stronger than you are. You got to get your emotions under control. You got to get your emotions under control. You cannot allow yourself to be constantly, because I've never been in any space where there were more than two people and have not dealt with the spirit of offense at some point. It happens. It happens. But and the same, I'm just like everybody else. When I deal with offense, especially if it's deep, I want to walk away. I want to quit. I can sit here and say this. I have the luxury of saying this. Even though I've done some crazy stuff in my life, married 2 times, I can genuinely say in neither one of those marriages was I the one that instigated anything. I wasn't. I let them do what they had to do. And I ain't gonna say I let them cheat. I ain't do that. But I filed for divorce the first time when the other one after he left. I said it's time. I filed for divorce. The second one, similar, very similar. I let him file for divorce. But The thing that I did was I learned to persevere. I learned to persevere. In life, I've learned to persevere. No matter what I'm in, I've learned to persevere. Perseverance does not feel good at all. As a matter of fact, you have a lot of systems, you have a lot of information coming out nowadays that says, oh, your mental health, your mental health. And now you got a lot of weak minded people are grabbing a hold of these words and they're trying to use all these big words to justify quitting everything. It was not it was not healthy for me mentally. Um it was this and it was that. No, you're weak. And you got to learn how to be in a situation where there's pressure. Because if you have any desire to be married, you will not be able to stay in a marriage once there are degrees of pressure in a marriage, guys. And I don't care how good or godly your marriage is, the enemy will get in there at some point. He will get in there at some point. And you gotta have enough of a relationship with God. You gotta have the gift of discerning the spirits. You gotta be wise enough to identify that you're not dealing with your spouse, but you're dealing with the spirit, and learn how to cast that thing out. But number one, you quit almost everything. You've never finished anything. You probably finished high school, you probably finished college, but after that, you won't finish anything. You get a friendship, you end it. You get in a relationship, it ends. You keep ending everything. Number two, you quit or reject people the minute you feel they're about to reject you. This is where I talk to my brothers. Ladies, you ever wondered why a man would end a relationship? Um, like you'll get into a spell, a time where there's increased arguments and stuff like that, and all of a sudden a man will end a relationship. In many cases, that happens. Thank you. Sorry, let me put this back up. Thank you, Sister Takaya. God bless you. God bless you, sis. But the reason that happens is it's called the fear of rejection. That's a whole demon within itself. There is a demon called rejection, and there's a demon called the fear of rejection. And a lot of guys and a lot of women, but there are a lot of guys who deal with the fear of rejection because the fear of rejection, it it wounds the pride. Rejection wounds a man's pride. And men a lot of times can wrestle with pride. That's one of the strong men. Women wrestle typically with emotionalism and other issues. Women typically wrestle with control in some cases, but men typically wrestle with pride. And whenever you see the strong man of pride, or you have a guy, for example, if you start having a lot of arguments, or you start having this season where the two of you are not getting along, to a man that sounds like the benediction. To a guy that sounds like, okay, she about to leave me, she about to break up with me, or what have you. I've seen this before, or what have you. So in some cases, the guy will go out and initiate a relationship with somebody else because he feels wounded and he wants to feel accepted by somebody. He may go out there and start having an affair, or he may end the relationship, or both, with you simply because he deals with the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection. And women do it as well. A lot of times with women, you may see them when it comes to organizations. Women typically end their relationships with organizations whenever they feel or they sense rejection. Women, when you're dealing with male to male friendships, men typically have their friends. They host their friendships with guys for a lifetime. But when you're talking about female to female friendships, they typically will last about 15 to 20 years. In some cases, like the closer ones, but at some point, many of them, or a large majority of them, end because at some point, one woman is going to make a decision to better herself, and the other women will typically feel rejected or feel threatened, and they'll sabotage their relationship with her because they feel like she's about to abandon them. But the only thing she did was decided, hey, I'm going to school, medical school. I'm going to go to school to become a doctor. I'm going to go to school to do this or go to school to do that. And the other women may feel some type of way. Number three, you are competitive. This is a sign of rejection. There is no such thing as healthy competition. It doesn't exist. I'm sorry. There is a good thing is inspiration. You should be inspired by others. There should never be a time where you're competing with anybody other than yourself. There should never be a time where you look at another human being, because I'm going to tell you, having suffered on the other end of that stuff hurt. People who like to compare themselves to other people and compete with other people don't consider what it feels like to the person on the receiving end. They really don't consider what it feels like to the person on the other end. They just look at it like, oh, you just did this. Well, I'm gonna go do it too, and I'm gonna do it better. You're gonna do that, and it would be okay if this is something y'all agreed to do and you did it in a funny way. But no, it typically looks like them not supporting you. It typically looks like them intentionally just being very distant, doing certain things and treating you a certain way. And people don't think you have the intelligence to sense that. When you have a degree of prophetic ability, and I'm not talking about suspicion, don't get the two mixed up, because there is a demon of suspicion. But I don't even want to say prophetic ability. I'll say this, when you just got the discerning of spirits, you know when somebody competing with you. You can feel that stuff. You can sense it. And especially if you like me and you grew up around that kind of stuff, you can tell when people do that stuff because you can sense it. It's a familiar spirit. You're familiar with it. You like, okay, there you go with that. Because typically, people who wrestle with rejection, who have an issue with comparison. Thank you, Sister Malia. God bless you. God bless you, sis. Who wrestle with the spirit of comparison and trying to compete with others. You can almost tell because it's almost every time you release something, they start speaking to you. They start acting funny. It's like you come out and you say, hi, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm releasing my new book on today. God bless you. I'm super excited. I have worked really hard. They ain't going to speak to you. They're not going to like your status. They ain't going to share your status. But they'll do that for everybody else. But they will intentionally avoid you. They will intentionally avoid celebrating you. They will intentionally, because for whatever reason, they fear that people are going to feel, or people are going to sense that they're comparing themselves to you. They also fear that you'll get more attention, which is the stupidest, craziest thing in the whole wide world, especially when it comes to the kingdom of God. I'm going to say this out loud. I'm going to say it with my chest. In the kingdom of God, you should not be competing with other Christians. That's stupid. It is flesh. Okay, I got to go to the scriptures. Give me a second. Thank you, Sister Whitney. God bless you. And this is something that I feel a burden to launch. I was thinking about that today. I'm going to launch something, an anti-bullying an anti-bullying campaign for Christian women. So y'all can start bullying other Christian women. Okay. 1 Corinthians 3. 1 Corinthians 3, we're going to start at 1. And I'm reading the English Standard Version. But I, brothers, could not address you as spiritual people, but as people of the flesh, as infants in Christ. I fed you with milk, not solid food, for you were not ready for it. And even now you are not yet ready, for you are still of the flesh. For while there is jealousy and strife among you, are you not of the flesh and behaving only in a human way? For when one says, I follow Paul, and another I follow Apollos, are you not being merely human? Now that's the English Standard Version. Let me read the King James Version, so we will deal with the these and the thous. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet are ye able, for ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? For while one saith, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are ye not carnal? Who then is Paul and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom ye believe, even as the Lord gave to every man? I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gives the increase. God gave the increase. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this as a warning. I'm going to say this is a warning to my Christian brothers and sisters out there. To my sisters, I want to mentor as many of you as possible. One of my things that I want to turn around, something I have a burden for, is to eradicate the system of bullying that calls itself comparison. It's a bullying spirit. I had to come to the realization I'm called to that because I hate it so much. It's something that I've seen and it makes no sense. The issue that I have, and I'm going to get back into the message. I did a message on my secret podcast, but I did a message one day and I think I talked about it. I don't know if I published it or not. I talked about it. Typically, women, the stupid thing for me, that women who deal with competition and comparison typically have a leg up. Meaning they have something that you don't have. They have blessings that you don't have, but they deal with entitlement. They think they're supposed to be in the front at all times. They have no logical standing for it. They deal with rejection. They've been rejected. They've mastered. And whenever you have dealt with rejection, when you go into a system where there's classism like high school, you typically reproduce that system everywhere you go if you don't get delivered. You reproduce that system even in the church. It's a high school system. It's the spirit of this world. It's the spirit of this world. And there's this competition that you can't really get up and you can't attain or achieve anything without having women getting upset with you. Listen, hear me. If you've never created anything, you can't relate to me. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Every sister on here who's a Christian, who is a producer, especially a mass producer, can probably tell you what she's experienced. Makes no sense. It makes no sense because you will have other women that get mad because they always believe that they were supposed to be in the front and they will never confront their own demons. They don't confront their own demons. They will sit there because in their mind, they feel like they're supposed to be at the top. They're supposed to be first. They're supposed to achieve everything first. You're supposed to go through them. You're supposed to go through them, or they at least got to take credit for what you did. And they don't like it when you sit up there and when you are an independent, when you're not trying to kiss their behinds. You can see this system in high school. Watch a lot of Mean Girl shows. You will see this system in high school. It is the spirit of this world. Whenever you see in high school, you will have a clique that's relatively popular, and you let one person come into that high school that's an independent thinker. And they depict them on the movies. And there's this one movie that comes to mind, but I cannot think of the name of it. But the girl, she comes up in there. She's kind of she's a beautiful girl, but she is kind of tomboyish. If anybody knows the name of it, please say it. She comes into the school. She's really not trying to compete. She's just trying to live. She's relatively tomboyish. I remember a scene in the movie where something happened where they messed up the brakes on her motorcycle or something like that. So she had to drive the motorcycle through school. So there was Mean Girls. Okay. And she had to drive the motorcycle through school and what have you. So everything she did caused her to become popular. That's a system. And I'm going to tell you something. It hurts me to see that with Christian women. It not just hurts me. It angers me. It frustrates me. And I have to pray and say, God, give me the wisdom to speak when I need to speak. Because when I see a woman walking in that, a lot of times it's just silly to me. Because sometimes for those of you who struggle with it, you're anointed. God has blessed you. But the spirit of rejection got you comparing yourself to your sister. And let me help you to understand that comparison and competition in the body of Christ means somebody has to lose for another person to win. So if I got to lose for you to win, that means there are souls that got to go to hell in order for you to get a victory. And you tell me you're going to heaven? You tell me you really saved? You're willing to let souls go to hell just so you can win? Baby, that's the spirit of this world. This is why God says, if you are a friend of the world, you are an enmity with him. You are an enemy of his. Because when you're a friend of the world, you don't think about other people. You don't move in the system of love. You move all about self. And you keep moving and you keep thinking about yourself. And that's not good. Right now, I'm going to move into this. Right now, in my mentorship, we have the 2.0. I have the students are creating a card game. You know what I'm trying to do? Raise up women to do greater than me. That's kingdom thinking. I want them to go further than me. I want them to do greater things than me. I'm not trying to get them to stay, but I wrote 50 books, so you can do 4. She did 20. Don't talk to her. I don't move like that. That's demonic. It's demonic. No, I'm trying to get them to do greater than me. Because that's what Jesus did. When you are a Christian, that's what you're supposed to be doing, is raising up people to do greater works. Greater works, greater works, greater works. You're supposed to raise them up to do greater works. You don't raise them up to be beneath you. But that spirit of competition and comparison, because it partners with rejection, it makes you afraid that if they do better than you, then they're going to go far. And they're going to leave you behind. That's not true. You do have people who don't have a spirit of gratitude. They don't have a spirit of gratitude, but at the end of the day, let God deal with them. It's your fight. Sisters, I'm going to create something, honestly. I'm going to do an anti-bullying thing. I've got, if I don't do nothing else on this planet, I got to break that spirit off. I'm coming for the head of that demon. I hate that demon. Oh, man, I tell you, if there's any demon I hate the demon of comparison, competition, and jealousy. I hate that demon. Because it makes no sense. Because typically, people who wrestle with it usually have a leg up. It's like, why are you comparing yourself? Why can't all of us be great and come together and we create this superpower? That's what unity does. When you come together, when I got my gifts, my talents, my anointing, you bring yours, and all of us come together, and I got your back and you got mine, and we got each other's back, and we ain't comparing each other, and I'm trying to help you get to the next level. You trying to help me get, man, there is nothing that we cannot acquire. But the enemy loves to get carnal Christians. Are ye not carnal? Get carnal Christians to hurt other Christians and to drive Christians out of anything if they see them as a threat to their own positions. The spirit of rejection. Sorry, if you ever hear me talking about jealousy, you will probably see me get passionate. You will probably see me get passionate. That is a, I don't want to say a trigger, but it is something that bothers me to the core. Because it's something that I've had to watch my entire life. And me not being a competitive person or a person who compares myself to other people, I've never understood it. I've never understood a female will sit there. For example, I came from a really broken family, really toxic family, whereas I didn't have the luxury. And then you have a girl that has a healthy family and she got all of that stuff. And yet and still, she over there looking at me like this. Because I had the nerves to maybe buy a pair of shoes that she didn't have. Stupid. So you mean to tell me that I got to stay down for the rest of my life? Like I can't have nothing. Competitive. That's the spirit of rejection. That's the spirit of rejection, guys. Number 4, you're easily offended. Let me tell you something. If you want me to mentor you and you're easily offended, you better get you some self-control. Anybody that I've ever mentored will tell you I don't do well with that easily offended people use offense to control other people. And one thing you will never find in me is me bowing down and allowing myself to be controlled by another human being. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. If I was willing to allow myself to be controlled, I'd still be married. Ask any woman. When it comes to a divorce, most of the time, you do have the option. You just got to give in to their demands. There is nothing in me that makes me say that I will accept a situation that is toxic, something that could potentially destroy me for the sake of you having what you want. If I was easily controlled, I would still have a real close relationship with most of my family members. I got toxic family members, many of them that like to control. I don't deal with that. I don't deal with control. I don't control people. I don't try to control people. I let everybody know, man, you got freedom. Make your decisions. In this thing called life, I don't put people on punishment. I let people live their lives and make their decisions. But I don't tolerate people who do that. I don't tolerate them. I don't tolerate them. Because at the end of the day, I have to have the ability to say, yep, nope, don't feel like doing that, sis. Sorry. Not today. If you say, oh, see, man, I'll call you back. I know this water's so good today. I'll call you back. And you put me on punishment, I'm going to start checking out. Because now I'm already deciding you're toxic. Because that's not healthy. That's not healthy. You have to learn, you have to allow people to have the ability to say no. So, easily offended people. Easily offended. Like you got to send them a happy face and everything. You got to be mindful of what you say. And when I say mindful, I'm not saying you should have the right to say, because you don't have the right to say, talk, be mean to people at all. I'm talking about you gotta put extra sugar on everything you say. You got to put extra sugar. No, pettiness is not on my list, but it is a sign. You are easily offended. Number 5, you move too quick in relationships. I think he the one. How long y'all been talking? It's going on day 3. You move too quickly in relationships. You're always in love. Every time we look up, you get a boyfriend, and then you start glowing. When people say you're glowing, it doesn't mean that your skin is glowing. It just means that you are probably a miserable person that they have not seen smile a lot, and all of a sudden you're starting to smile. People don't see your frown lines as much, so now your skin looks better because your frown lines are not showing up as much. So every time they see you nowadays, you're like this. You walk up and they're like, hey. No, normally when you walk up, you're like, hey girl, what you doing? Gonna go up in here and do this work. I'm trying to show you what glowing means. When people say that you're glowing, gonna go in here and do this work. What time you get off? 6. What about you? Now, when you get in a relationship, you'd have met a guy 2 days ago. They're like, hey, girl. Hey. How you doing? What time you get off? 6? Yeah. 6 o'clock. That's why people say you're glowing. That's why they say you're glowing. You're glowing because you're typically measurable, and it shows up on your face. And now all of a sudden, it's like somebody got an iron and ironed the wrinkles out of your face, and people didn't know that there was a smile and a whole human under there. Now, when you smile, it's like when they come up to you, you look so pretty. Thank you, girl. What you doing? What you doing Friday? You want to go out to eat? And people don't normally see you like that. Every time they see you, what you doing Friday? Girl, probably gonna be up in here. I don't know. It's my one day off. I'm cutting my phone off. I ain't finna do nothing for nobody. You hear me? See them 3? You shouldn't have these rings. You see them little free wraps? Those right there. I got them from my daddy, y'all. But you move too quick in relationships. You move too quick in relationships. He the one already? You ain't testing now, spirit. He the one already? You don't know the dude got 3 bodies buried in his backyard of the last 3 women who said he was the one. And you already talking about he the one? Girl, yes. He said he was going to take me to his backyard and we were going to do some gardening. He wants to, plant some bushes out there and name them after me. Can I ask you a question, sis? Can you kind of give me your story out? Because I want to write your story before this man buries you, so I think it'd make a really good, interesting book. That's the thing about being a writer, is that, while we hate to see people getting hurt and stuff like that, There's always lessons and wisdom and what have you. When you're a teacher, you can extract from that. So can I get your story before you become fertilizer? All right. You move too quick in relationships. You've been pregnant longer than you were in a relationship. You met the guy, had you pregnant by him 2 weeks, 3 months later, he left, and now you're pregnant. 9 months of pregnancy. All right. Okay. I ain't gonna make fun of y'all. Number 6, you're always trying to reinvent yourself. Happy New Year! This is a new me. How many times are you going to keep reinventing yourself? The reason you keep trying to reinvent yourself is because you keep feeling rejected as you are. Thank you, Ayo. God bless you. You keep feeling rejected as you are. So you keep trying to find a personality, an identity, a look that people will be more forgiving of. You keep trying to reinvent yourself. And typically, I think the whole idea behind reinventing ourselves, it typically centers around people rejecting us. And sometimes it centers around, you know, the communities that we frequent. A lot of times what we're trying to do is we're trying to find some type of way to be accepted in those communities. And so we may find people in the community. You find a girl in the community, and let's say, for example, she didn't got rainbow hair in her head. So now you sitting up here thinking about, I don't want to look like I'm copying her, but I want to do something similar. You know what I'm gonna do? You know how they do that leopard print stuff? I'm gonna do something like I want leopard print hair over here. I want it to have like a leopard print, and then over here I want it to look like a cow. You know, like them cow spots. But I want it to be red, purple, green, orange, yellow, blue. You keep trying to reinvent yourself, and you can typically see this in relationships. Um, a lot of times you can tell when a woman is going through something in a relationship is when she's constantly trying to change her identity, because what she's doing is she's trying to find a woman within herself that her husband would be accepting or her boyfriend would be accepting of. Right, peacock style. She's trying to find something that her husband will be accepting of. You know, the husband. Let's say, for example, if the woman has long, beautiful hair, in many cases she may feel like, well, if he starts cheating or anything that signals that the relationship is coming to an end, she may shave her hair off. She may shave her hair off. So you will see these dramatic alterations. And I'm not talking about dressing up, because women, we like to dress up. We like to cut our hair. We like to put extensions on our hair. We like to do stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about drastic alterations to one's identity. And those are usually preceded by proclamations of, oh, the new me. This is going to be the new me, a change in me. I just deleted people off my friends list. I'm starting afresh. Those are rejected souls. First and foremost, if you don't deal with rejection, why do you feel the need to tell people that you're about to do a mass delete on your friends list? You're doing that because you're trying to force people to like your statuses. This water good today. Don't know why I'm so thirsty. Thank you, Sister Maisha. God bless you. Thank you, sis. You're always been a blessing. Thank you so much. But why, if I'm going to do a mass delete on my friends list, I'm not going to announce it? Because when you announce it, aren't you just trying to scare people? That's right. You need the water of the word. But aren't you just trying to scare people? You're trying to bully people into liking your status. I got 3,600 people on my friends list, but I only get 12 likes every time I post up a status. So I'm going to be doing a mass clean of my Facebook friends list. Thank you, Sister Christine. God bless you. I'm going to be doing a mass clean of my friends list. Then a few minutes later, you see a status, or the next day, if you see this status, you made the cut. Get delivered. It is a fear tactic. It really is. Get delivered. If you see this status, you made the cut. And that's trying to make everybody feel like now you better like my statuses because you just so happen to make the cut. And you know what I don't do? If you want to stay on my friends list, be sure to like a comment on I don't say a word. You ain't gonna bully me into that. First and foremost, I use Facebook more than I use Instagram, and even in that, I don't even scroll. Y'all got to hear me when I say this. I'm not a scroller. When I go to Facebook, it's typically I have something in my head that I want to say, and if I scroll, I may do one, two. That's algorithm. That's going to get the people that typically engage with me the most, and those are the only people I'm going to see. So if I don't like your status, I promise it ain't personal. I'm going one, two. If I see you, I'm gonna like you. But I'm not a Facebook head. But when I see stuff like that, for whatever reason, that does come to the top of my feed. Maybe because they get quite a bit of likes or what have you. They're using a scare tactic or what have you. And somebody says manipulation. It is truly manipulation. I don't engage in that. I don't engage in that. I'd be like, girl, delete me because ain't nobody finna sit here and serve that demon. All right, let's move on. You're always trying to reinvent yourself. Number 7, you wrestle with loneliness when you're alone, and you wrestle with loneliness when you're around people. It's a spirit of rejection. You wrestle with loneliness. When I'm alone, I live in my house. I live by myself. I got my sweet baby back there who is currently in his kennel. I very seldom wrestle with the spirit of loneliness. And that's because I stay busy. I think I wrestled more with loneliness when I used to spend a lot of time on the phone. I think that should deliver somebody. When I used to have those long friendships where we'd be on the phone for hours at a time, I think I wrestled more with loneliness then than I do now. Now I don't spend a lot of time on the phone. I spend a lot of time working or what have you, but I don't spend a lot of time on the phone. I spend a lot of time in my purpose because I've come to understand that I'm not only in my purpose, but I'm in between. I don't want to say I'm in a hallway, but I could potentially be in a hallway between two seasons. And what happens in this is I got a space to do the things I can and want to do. But let's talk about whenever I get married. I may not have the time to be a mass producer. I'm obviously he got to go to work and I get a chance, but when he comes home, I can't sit at the computer all day long and work. So this is a good time for me to get out of me what's in me. Not to say I'm gonna stop producing when I get married, because I do plan to produce and to continue to mass produce. Nevertheless, I may not be able to do it on this level. Thank you, Sister Sherry. God bless you. So the goal is to create systems, to go ahead and get a rhythm going and create systems where I can have this stuff constantly moving, even at a higher rate. So even whenever I do get to a point where I have to slow down, that stuff doesn't slow down. Y'all got to catch that. That doesn't slow down. So I don't give myself time to wrestle with loneliness. I really don't have time to wrestle with loneliness. For me, it's just I'm busy. I'm busy. I don't have children, so I'm busy. I have nothing else to do with it. And one of the things, like when people sit back and be like, "You did something else. You created another card game. You did this and you did that." For me, I'm just like, well, yeah, I don't have a husband and I don't have kids. I don't have anything else to do with my time. And I ain't one of those women that's laying around having sex with myself. I ain't having sex with anybody. So I don't have anything to do with my time. It's either that or watch a bunch of TV and talk on the phone. It's a waste of time for me. You're right. Idle hands. And I can say this, idle hands touch themselves. For those of you who deal with masturbation, you need to put your hands somewhere else. Idle hands touch themselves. Idle hands. You're always trying to figure them hands is like, I need to do something. Put them hands to your purpose. Put those hands to your purpose. So by the time you get married, when you don't have a husband, when you don't, even for those, y'all, can I say something? I'm gonna say something that's gonna set you up for The best time in your life, and this is going to bless you, convict you, or whatever. The best time to start a business or to get into your purpose or to write the book is when you're unemployed. Who did I just hit in the juggler? Because you ain't got nothing else to do. That's why you keep getting in these relationships that you shouldn't be in. You ain't got nothing else to do. You got plenty of time to write that book. You got plenty of time to start that business. You got plenty of time. But when you don't do nothing with that time, you know what you're going to do? You're going to get in a relationship. You got plenty of time. Plenty of time on your hands. When somebody tells me, Sister Tiffany, just pray for me, I'm in between jobs, I'd be like, girl, do you even understand the opportunity that you got right now? Get into some class, go learn something, start that business. But what you have to do is you got to get a speed going. You got to you got to get something and you got to learn how to do it. You got to get past the learning curve because the learning curve is frustrating. It makes you want to quit, but you got to push your way all the way through that. And then you got to start getting your momentum up and you got to do it in excellence. You got to do it consistently. Even when you have no sales coming in, you got to keep investing in it and you got to keep doing it, 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 keep doing it until all of a sudden you break the hedge. It'll start off with a little bit of money you see coming in. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Next thing you know, the money gonna increase. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep investing, keep investing. Even when you ain't getting but $200 a month, keep investing, and it'll break. You wrestle with loneliness, even when you're alone. And you shouldn't wrestle with loneliness when you're alone, because for whatever reason we see those as synonymous, but they're not. Alone doesn't mean that I should be lonely. If I'm busy, I don't have time to be lonely. Only time I have time to be lonely is if I'm sitting up watching reruns of Golden Girls and listen to a bunch of R. Kelly and then crying because I'm manless. Where is my man, Lord? Doesn't make sense. I've served you. I've been abstinent for 7 years. Where that joker at? Out somewhere being a punk. Tired. Tired. Yeah, Betty White. I feel bad about her. She lived a really long life. But if I didn't do nothing else, I'd probably be staring at somebody's eyes. It's okay, I'm gonna straighten your eye up. Come here. Come here. Get it. There we go. I'll fix you up today. You're gonna be my man. You hear me? We're gonna do this thing. I ain't gonna be lonely no more. No, get in your purpose. And I'll say this: you typically deal with loneliness even in crowded spaces because you feel rejected in crowded spaces. You may deal with loneliness even more in crowded spaces. Um, you may feel rejection even more in crowded spaces simply because um, you feel rejected in those spaces. You feel rejected in those spaces. Let me say this too: there are spaces that you're going to enter that you're going to feel rejected. And one of the lessons I've had to learn, because I've been pretty mobile in my life. And when I say mobile, meaning I have not just been localized to one place, and I'm not saying I'm one of those people. I say God called me to this state and God called me to that state, and it's really the vagabond spirit. And I'm just running around trying to find myself. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about I grew up in Mississippi. I moved from Mississippi to Germany. I lived in Germany for 6 months. Now, I did that because I was married. I didn't do that because I was running. I did that because I was married and I was trying to follow the man. And after we left Germany, came back to the United States, stayed with his relative for like 2, 3 weeks. Then moved in with my mom, stayed there for several months before his job moved us to Florida. Then moved to Florida, stayed in Florida for 5 years, divorced while I was in Florida, kept getting prophetic words in Florida that God was moving me here. This was the place that God was getting me to. So those other places were me. They weren't necessarily God. They weren't necessarily God. I want the thing that I've learned, and when I say I've been mobilized and just places I've gone, I've been in spaces and I can tell where I'm called to versus where I'm not called to. Because whenever you're called to a space, now let me say this because that was wrong what I was about to say. You can be called to a space and deal with rejection in that space because God has brought you to that space. And every person comes with a grace on them that is supposed to grow that space. That makes sense. But whenever you're going in any place you go into, whenever you come with a grace or foreign grace or anything like that, you may deal with rejection. So talk about your job. You go into a job and it's a job where everybody used to gossiping. You know, everybody there's a gossiper. And that's just one of the systems of that job. That's the culture of that job. Everybody's a gossiper. You come up in there and you happen to be one of those people that don't like gossip. And you come up in there and you like, hello everybody, how y'all doing? And they start talking and you like, well, just pray for a girl. Don't, you know, and people realize that about you, then you will deal with rejection. That doesn't mean that you're supposed to quit. There's a grace on your life that God wants to break that off of that company or what have you. Maybe the owner of the company has been praying, but God wants to break that. And so it's going to take somebody like yourself to come in, and you have to stay still in spaces like that and not quit just because now you're the target of gossip. I've never been in a space where I've never was gossiped about. I think about when I was working for AT&T, for example. I remember one of the rumors that went out about me, and it was like I was the most private person. I was cool with everybody. I always made it a point. Everywhere I've gone, I've always made it a point to make sure that I'm loving on people, treating people right, or what have you. And I just let people be who they are. I let people, and I just remember this one lady decided that she was going to tell, and at this time, I think me and my ex, we hadn't broke up yet, but the rumor had came out. So yeah, it was a rumor came out. So the one of the mistress, he had a crazy mistress. He had a stalking mistress or what have you, an older woman who decided that she was going to find me at all costs or what have you. And it's really funny because she went into the phone book trying to find my name or what have you. She did everything. So she found out everything she could find about me. And I talked about this. She went through the phone book looking for Buckner's and she called, but she started at the bottom of the list. If she started at the top, she would have called my mom's house, but she started at the bottom of the list. She ended up calling the last number, which was, you know, where she went from the bottom and moved her way up. My brother answered the phone. And my brother was a thought. Yeah, my brother was a thought. And she was like, may I speak with Tiffany? And he said, Tiffany's not here. He said, oh. She said, oh, is this her family? Is this her house? He said, yeah. He said, she said, could you give her a message for me? He said, yeah, sure. She said, tell her this is such and such, and I'm sleeping with her man. We still sleeping together. My brother said, what? And so my brother went over there. My brother, you know, is handsome. He's a good looking guy. So he started talking to her, what have you, and he played his cards right just so he could sleep with her. But that was one of the things that she did was that she decided to go on this whole stalking thing, trying to find me. So she ended up calling a lady on my job who happened to be a real big gossiper. She found out where I was working at. So she called a woman on my job and said, could you give this message to Tiffany? Could you tell her I'm still sleeping with her husband? And the lady didn't tell me. Instead, what she did was she started spreading it around my job. And she started telling the women. And, you know, for me, I was off to myself. I just speak to people, hey, how y'all doing? And what have you. And I just started seeing people like, and they little cliques talking, what have you. I never thinking about it. Working in an office with 100 women, women can be relatively messy, you know, what have you. So not all women, but gossip is a thing with women. You ain't gonna find too many male gossipers, right? But you will find a lot of females that gossip. Men gossip too, but typically, if you come across a man who likes gossip, that pinky finger, just watch that pinky. But she ended up calling that lady, and that lady spread it around my job. And she not only spread it around my job, she had to juice it up some. So she told them that she had told me, and she hadn't even talked to me. And this was a woman that used to say, hallelujah, glory to his name, praise the Lord, hallelujah. You know, every time she talked, she was Jesus, Jesus, glory, glory. But she was one of the biggest gossipers you ever come in contact with. But she went around my job and she told them that I had wrote her a 5-page letter talking about how I couldn't live without him. I was a supervisor at the time. You know, she was like, I wrote her a 5-page letter saying how I couldn't live without him. And one of the ladies on my job that I used to be relatively cool with, she called me and she was like, Tiffany, why didn't you know you could talk to me? It's like, what are you talking about? She said, Tiffany, stop playing games. You know you can talk to me. I said, talk to you about what? What are you talking about? And she kept saying, Tiffany, I know you can be private at times, but you got to let somebody in. I'm like, what, ma'am, what are you talking about? She said, I heard. Right? She said, I heard about what happened with you and we'll just say my exes, we'll just call him Roger. I heard what happened with you and Roger. I said, what happened? And so she named the mistress. I'm like, okay. She called this girl. Okay, I didn't know that. And but I knew it was true because I knew she was calling around, or what have you. And she was like, and she told the girl, I'm like, okay. And the girl said she came and told you, and you broke out and started crying, and you told her how you couldn't live without him. And I'm just like, okay, first and foremost, you've been around me long enough to know that ain't my character. And said you ended up writing her a 5-page letter saying how you couldn't live without him. I was like, wow, okay, so that didn't happen. That did not happen. She has never had a conversation with me besides hello. And okay, I'll see her. So I was working as a supervisor. I'm sitting at the desk. I don't know how I got into this story, but it's just funny. I like to be funny. But I'm at the desk one day and she comes up and she's having staple paper and stuff, and she's standing there. I'm working the computers, and the supervisor's desk. It was like all these computers, and you have to get people up. You got to get people there 15 minutes. You got to buzz people, so you're always shoot, 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 shoot. But for whatever reason, it was kind of a little bit relaxed. I had just kind of got everything, moved or what have you, and then all of a sudden, I see her over there. She said, "Hello, Tiffany." I said, "Hey." I said, "Whatever happened to my 5-page letter?" She like crapped herself. Right. Longer than the 4-page letter. I'm telling you. She like cracked herself. She like, she started stuttering because she know it never happened. And then she caught me downstairs and later. I think it was that day or the next day. And she was like, I want to apologize. I should have said, but she told me the woman that called her and everything, and how the woman used to mess with her boyfriend. And the woman called her and said, I'm not calling you about your boyfriend. I'm calling you about, I heard she worked with you and what have you. And I said, first and foremost, I've lived 20 something years without him. Please believe me, I can live more. I can live without him. Okay. And I ain't writing now about it no 5-page letter talking about I can't live without some dude at the end of the day. So don't know why I told y'all that story. But you wrestle with loneliness. You wrestle with loneliness. Even when you're around people, you wrestle with loneliness. And I can honestly say, extracting from that story, when you deal with rejection, you will find yourself in situations where you may feel like you can't live without a person because that person seems to be the only person who's truly accepted you, even though they are rejecting you. And you have to get healed from that. You have to get healed from that. We talked about the spirit of murder. That's one of the reasons I learned that my personality doesn't allow me to be in a relationship with a toxic person. My personality doesn't allow that. I've been in, I'm not saying, but I'm saying that my personality triggers those type of people. It was a small town, sis. It was. It was. It was. It was. It was one of those things. If I ever did a movie about my life, I'm telling y'all, it would be funny, sad. You're gonna have every emotion, but I can promise you this: you will be on the floor laughing. You would be on the floor laughing, or what have you, because yeah, I've never been that person that tried to fit in. I really didn't care. I've never given 12 rat's feathers about fitting in. All right, let's move on. Number 8, you build relationships with other people, broken and rejected people, just to have someone to who you can relate to. Especially when you go into an organization, a community, or any small space where people have regular, um, like a job, any place where you're going to see people regularly, you typically will build relationships with one or two groups of people. One, you may find yourself hanging out with the rejected, because you can relate to them. And if you hang out with the rejected, y'all gonna talk about the people that didn't accept you in that organization, or you're gonna try to find yourself getting into the every organization typically has superpowers. And when I say superpowers, we talked about Mean Girls and stuff like that. Every organization, you would typically have some people that that are that have kind of risen in that particular organization. Doesn't mean they're popular anywhere else, but they may be, have some power or some type of notoriety within that organization. And I mean, women or men or what have you, typically it's women. And you may find yourself trying to kiss up behind them in order to be accepted. And whenever they don't accept you, then you will get upset. And then what you start doing is you get with the rejected crowd, or you do something crazy. Just to understand this, whenever God wants to do something great and grand to you, God does not allow you to fit in. That has to be understood. Now, it doesn't mean that you go around being mean to people. It doesn't mean that you be unloving. It doesn't mean that you be proud of being like, I'm different. It just means that you need to be comfortable with being yourself. God wants you to be comfortable with being yourself. So you build relationships with other broken and rejected people just to have someone you can relate to. And this is not just limited to platonic relationships. It is mostly in romantic relationships. You get in relationships with broken men or rejected men, or broken women or rejected women, to my brothers, just so you can have somebody you can relate to. You feel good, you feel comfortable with the rejected guy, because all these people that have rejected him, you feel like you have what it takes to help him to get past his rejection, because you have gotten some type of, you've made some progress with your spirit of rejection. You didn't went to church, you and identified it as a spirit of rejection, and you got a book. So it's the spirit of rejection. So now you feel like you can help him. Now you feel like you can help him. So you get in those type of relationships and you try to help people. Please understand this. Hear me when I say this. Familiar spirits. How do I want to say this? Familiar spirits, you can feel them. Familiar spirits feel relatively, how do I say this, Lord? If you come across a man and you've been delivered from certain types of spirits, it doesn't stop them from being familiar spirits just because you've ended your relationship with those spirits. If you come in contact with a man who has a spirit that you are relatively familiar with, even though you've gone through deliverance, there's a sense of comfort there because you know that spirit. Does that make sense? There's a sense of comfort there. So you may feel drawn to him. You may feel comfortable around him. You may feel like you can relax around him. You may even have a romantic interest in him simply because that spirit on him is familiar to you. It almost feels like it's called a familiar spirit for a reason. It's like you almost feel like you already know him. But it's not him that you know. It's a spirit. It's a spirit that's on him. It's a spirit that's on him. And you learned first, you can't master a demon, but you do know you can learn the inner workings of a demon. And what I mean by that, demons have patterns, they have behaviors. I'll say this for example. When I was broken and bound, or any woman, I don't want to use my story, any woman that's broken and bound in a relationship with a man who's broken and bound learns how to, for lack of a better word, handle that man. She learns how to handle him. He can go out there and get in relationships with other women and they don't know what they're doing. She know how to handle him. She know how to make him sit down. She know what to say to him. She knows how to handle him. What she's done is she's mastered, and I hate to say mastered because she hasn't mastered his demons. She's learned, she's learned how to make his demons sit down. Okay, I'll say it like this. In the world of business, I've learned how when I'm working with people, I have to deal with people. I work with people every day in the world of business. I get logo orders pretty much every day. I'm doing something pretty much every day. So I work with broken and bound people quite a bit. It's normal. And I can a lot of times tell what type of spirit I'm working with. If I'm working with a person who has a spirit, I can tell based on their behavior. I can tell based on some of the things that they do. And so, in order for me to close an order out, in many cases, I have to employ tactics. And I'm not going to publish them, but I will say, when I say tactics, I've learned to master certain demons. So for example, I'm trying to think of one because if I end up working with one of y'all, I don't want you to be like, I heard you on YouTube. You ain't gonna get me. But let's say I'm doing a logo order. I'll say something simple that's not even that comedic. If I'm doing a logo order with a person and the person does not want to fill out the form to approve their order, because typically when I'm working with people who have unclean spirits, thank you, Sister Emily, God bless you, God bless you. When I'm working with somebody who has unclean spirits, a lot of times they wrestle with control. And when an unclean spirit gets you in a place where you're having to work with it, a lot of times that customer, and I see this more often than anything with customers, that customer doesn't want to close out their order because they, in that moment, they got somebody that they can kind of, do this, do this, do this, do this, do. I call them unemployed Jezebels in many cases. And when I'm working with somebody like that, and I say, hey, fill out the form to approve your logo, and she won't do it. And she keeps playing mind games, and I'm like, if I email her, I say, hey, did you fill out the form to approve your logo? She doesn't respond. I'm talking about 2-3 days. She still ain't responded. I sit up there. So then finally, I may say something like, as soon as you fill out this form, trying to see something, because I don't want to give away like stuff that I like but as soon as you fill out this form, we can start this other process. Now, the other process, I'm not lying. But I don't. It doesn't require her, so she's not gonna be able to delay me. So in that moment, she still thinks she has an opportunity to delay. When I say that, she'll fill out the form. Quick, happens 100% of the time. When I discern that spirit, I've learned to work with it. This is why I have an entrepreneur's course, because in the world of entrepreneurship, I can tell you how to stay in business. I have several successful businesses. I can teach you how to stay in business. It's spiritual. I teach the mental, spiritual side of it, the spiritual side of business, because 80% of businesses fail because you're watching tutorials on how to do this and do that, but you don't know the mental and spiritual side of it. When you're dealing with demons, they have patterns of behavior. And whenever you come across a pattern, when I see a pattern, when I see this type of movement, I know what I'm dealing with. And I know that in order to finalize this order with this particular client, and I've done her logo, I've uploaded it to my website. All she has to do is log in and approve it. But she won't do that because she tried to delay the process, and she kept, and then I was able to stop her from delaying it by telling her, according to the rules, you get one free revision. And if you want more, you're going to have to pay. So she pays one more time, and she tries to throw confusion in there. Doesn't work. I do what she tells me to do. And then she tries to delay the process, and I'm trying to get her to sign off on the order. She won't sign off on the order. I typically know. In that particular, all I got to do is make her think that the process is going to be a little bit longer, that we still have other process to do. When I say that, she'll go ahead and sign. She'll go ahead and sign. Now that makes me want to delete this, but she'll go ahead and sign that form. And when she does, I'm like, thank you so much. Here's your logo. God bless you. And oh yeah, I just finished the other process. There you go. That didn't require your approval. Now she over there with a head spinning. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this girl just got me. But that's a spirit. That's a spirit. When you're dealing with spirits, you learn how to beat them at their game because they have patterns. Yeah, most people go out of business because of Jezebel. I teach that in the world of business. Jezebel puts more people out of business than anything. In the world of business, the first spirit you have to get past is Jezebel. Most people are taken out of business by Jezebel because they get somebody in, and that person, at that time, they don't know patterns. I've been in my ceiling logo business has been in operation since 2010, 2011. So I've been in business for 10 years. With that, my publishing company has been in business since 2014. So I've been in business for 7+ years with that. Um, Graphic design business, I don't know how long. I did photography for a while. I've done quite a bit. So I can actually tell you I've learned certain spirits as I work. And so I'm able, when I'm working with people, to discern what spirit I'm working with. If I'm working with a person that has a spirit, they have the same patterns. It's just the same patterns. They move a certain way. It's almost like an instinct. It's almost like when it comes to animals have instincts. They have certain movements that let you know what they are. But demons have patterns like that as well. They have patterns of movement, meaning even though I can identify that they do this and they do that, they're still going to do that. They're still going to do that. And when they move in that pattern, whenever I see that pattern of movement, then I know what I'm dealing with. And whenever I'm dealing with that particular spirit, I know now. I can say this, for example, and I'll get back into this, guys. When I'm dealing with Jezebel, Jezebel hates legalities. They hate legalities. They hate anything. If you send a form, say you gotta sign this contract, they hate it. They hate it. They hate it because they don't like feeling out of control. They hate it. It's an undying passion. They will delay the crap out of a process. They'll do everything. They'll do everything that they can to stop from doing what you told them to do. But there are ways around it. There are ways to break that, what have you. So you want to make sure before a process starts that you have some contracts in place. You want to make sure that before a process starts that you have penalties. You have to have penalties, because the point I was going to make is that people can actually control their demons. So when a person comes up to me who has a controlling spirit, who doesn't want to let go, and they're trying to force me to basically become their unit to work for them, whereas it's like, okay, ma'am, your logo is finished. Yeah, but I want to make some more changes to it. And oh yeah, and by the way, when I see that, then I know all I have to do is say money. When I say, okay, but according to our policies, you get one free revision, which you've already utilized. So every additional revision is this much money. And so yeah. And you want that done? Okay, this is the price. This is the price. People, they love their money so much that typically they will stop being demonic in that moment. I'm giving y'all a free lesson. If you wise, so into it. I'm giving you a free lesson. They have, because of their love of money is greater than their love for the demon. When I put money up in front of a person, it silences them. When I sit back and say, not a problem. So you want me to redo that logo, and you want me to do this, and you want me to do that? Okay. I will send you an invoice for $799 today. When do you think and I'll get started as soon as you make payment. Wait, hold up. You said $799? Yes, ma'am. $799. Wait. They will tell their demons go sit down somewhere. They will tell their demons to go sit down somewhere. So there are women who have learned to master their man's demons by mastering the man, because the man starts realizing that even though he has a demonic thought in, that now, because the woman is doing this, because her demon told her how to handle, but because the woman is doing this, she learns, well, let me do this to him. And so in that moment, he starts resisting his demons because he don't want to deal with hers. Right? Invoice ministry. I love it. Invoice ministry. Thank you, Sister Zulika. God bless you. God bless you, sis. Love you. Right. Mammon is far more powerful than Jezebel. In most cases, Mammon is far more powerful. So when you sit up there and you go to tickling that demon of Mammon on them, okay, got you covered, man. Here's this. Here go this, and here's that. They will technically go ahead and sign off or what have you. They'll go ahead and sign off. All right, where were we? You build relationships with other broken. Okay, number 9, you gossip and slander. These are symptoms of rejection. You gossip and slander. Should never be a case in your life where you feel the need to gossip about people. Now, let me say this. If you deal with offense and you don't confront people when you're offended, you're going to gossip because it's got to get out of you. This is why the Bible tells you to confront them. And the reason people are afraid of confrontation is because you utilize or you use the word confrontation rather than I need to have a meeting. I need to have a meeting. Thank you, Sister Tiffany. God bless you, sis. I need to have a meeting. Stop using the word confrontation. It makes it easier for you to talk to people. I need to have a meeting with. Start saying that I need to have a meeting with such and such or what have you. But gossip and slander. Hear me when I say this before I move on to the next one. In the ministry of deliverance, we cast demons out of people's tongues. Do you know when you get into gossip and slander, there's a demon that gets into your tongue? It's the reason why whenever you get angry, stuff come out of you. Thank you, Sister Latasha. God bless you. You wrestle with gossip and slander. You always sit there and you get offended and you just don't know what to you got to talk to somebody about it. And you get into gossip and slander because you're looking for clarity. You're looking for clarity. You want somebody to tell you, because God in the world of gossip and slander, thank you, Sister Aquina, God bless you. Whenever you're dealing with gossip and slander, you're looking for somebody else to say, girl, she did that to you too. Hold up. Let me get my popcorn. Because we about to. And those conversations, they can feel freeing, so freeing that you go to just, oh my gosh. So now you want to talk. Hear me when I say this. When you're dealing with gossip and slander, they're not just demons, they're flesh issues. Your flesh wants to talk about it. This is why you should get a counselor. In the multitude of counsel, there's safety. You should get yourself counselors. Because if you don't, you will end up, it becomes gossip and slander when you plant it in the ears of somebody who can't do nothing about it but fight. They can't do anything about it, right? It is a false sense of validation. But it's not a good thing because at the end of it, you have not made any progress besides saying, okay, so it's not me, just me. The best thing that you can do is to, 1, analyze, 2, pray, 3, get wise counsel. Somebody who is God-fearing, somebody who loves the Lord, someone who is surrendered to God that you can talk to, not for the sense, and somebody maybe that doesn't know the person, not for the sense of hurting the person, but for the sense of somebody saying, thank you, Sister Latrice, God bless you. You handled that situation wrong. Just love her and keep it moving. It has to be somebody that helps you to get beyond it, to get to forgiveness. It can't be somebody that sits there and makes you say, I knew it wasn't just me. Right? You want to get it out your system, and you need to. Your system, your mind won't allow you to really have the rest until you process it. I can tell you, for example, one of my processes, whenever I come across situations that I have a certain thought about, I process it by talking out loud in my house. I process it that way. So I'll think about it, I'll sort out, I'll do it, I'll go through my process, and I'll talk about it out loud. I'll be like, I'll say, and yes, I do mean talking to myself. But I promise you, I ain't 3 shades of crazy. Maybe 1 shade, but I ain't 3 shades of crazy. No, I'm not crazy at all. But I'll process it by saying, that doesn't make sense. They need deliverance. They don't understand what they're doing. But you know what? I'll say, I give it a conclusion. My conclusion is always, I'm going to do what God told me to do. I forgive. And I'll even make sure I take it to God in prayer. I say, God, you heard that. You heard what the ramblings of my heart. I could be wrong, but this is what I sense. This is what I see. This is what I feel. in the name of Jesus, I give the situation to you. You said to cast your burdens. I just went through my sorting process. And so, Lord, I give the situation to you. Father, I choose to do right. I will do right by you. I will not walk in unforgiveness. Help me to forgive. God, I give and I leave it like that. And if I have to sort through it again, I may start thinking about it again. I'll start chopping it up again. But I'm going to always end that meeting with myself in prayer. Thank you, Sister Neely. Sister Nene, God bless you. I will always end it in prayer because in that, I don't want to talk to people about that unless I'm talking to somebody who is out, somebody who outranks me. I'm not looking for somebody that's on my level that I can gossip, because if they're on my level, it's going to probably just be a bunch of trash. Somebody who outranks me, somebody who is wise, somebody who is God fearing, somebody who loves the Lord, somebody who moves in honor at all times. And when I say honor, I'm not just talking about within a church organization, within a job, within a family. I'm looking for somebody that is not going to allow the situation to turn into gossip, because your flesh wants to gossip. Somebody that can say, you know what, Tiff, just pray. And they may even say yes. Don't worry. That, you know, the boss knows, and the boss knows that she behaves like that, but just pray. Don't worry about that. Because at the end, I don't want this right here to be my undoing. I don't want this right here to be my undoing, but I know I need to unload it. So I unload it within the space here. I'd be like, okay, this, I chop it up. Thank you, Brown Girl. God bless you. I chop it up here, but then at the end of it, I'm going to pray about it. And if I have to have a conversation, for the most part, I think a lot of times I don't necessarily have to have conversations with people. If I do have to go down and have one with them, I will. But for the most part, I'll chop it up here and I give it to the Lord. And I'm gonna tell you something. In my experience with God, He's so appreciative of that, that it can go months, it can go years. But I'm telling you, God will give you clarity. God will sit back and say, you wrong or you right. But if he say you right, he'll say, but it's in my hands. I got it. Leave it alone. Okay. I'll answer that at the end. At the end. All right. Number 10. And then we got 16 of them. And I'm going to try to move fast through the rest of them. And these are signs that you deal with rejection. Number 10. Love you too, sis. I'm coming, Sister Carol. I'm just giving you guys time to process. Just give me your time. Because, you know, some people are on the toilet right now. Some people were in the kitchen. I'm trying to get everybody back to your screen. Get you back to your screen. Get you ready. Sign that you deal with rejection. And these are for people in relationships. So you may have seen this when you were in a relationship. You like makeup sex. You fight just to have makeup sex. I'm gonna tell you how that's rejection. Don't worry. I'm gonna tell you. Give me a second. I'm just letting it. I'm letting it penetrate all through the neurons and the just it just has to get all up in there. Let me tell you why you like makeup sex. And this is especially true. Men and women like makeup sex, but in a different way. Women like makeup sex typically from fights that they did not start. But whenever a woman feels like there was, because women typically, we'll have our day plan. We'll have this moment where we'll say, okay, we're off tomorrow. We're going to go to the park and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, or what have you. So typically makeup sex with a woman is usually her way of trying to make up, because she's trying to get to that plan that she had. Y'all got to tell me if I'm wrong. Whenever I'm wrong, you can call me out. But women typically like makeup sex when they genuinely want to make up. Genuinely. And men like makeup sex from a place of perversion and rejection. And women do too. But it typically comes from a perversion and rejection. It's centered around this thought: I put pressure on people in my past and they left. If I hurt you, disappoint you, intimidate you, or scare you, and we end up having this intense fight where we get our adrenaline going and all this other stuff. And this is especially true for prophetic people. Prophetic people, you're super sensitive. You like to do these crazy things because you typically deal with rejection. Oh, Jesus. Lord, I don't know if I can marry a prophet. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to limit the Lord, but I'm telling you. But it comes from a place of when you are about to engage in an act or you are engaging in the act, it comes from a place of makes you feel secure that the woman you are having sex with is not walking away from you. Where my brothers at today? I see my sisters and my brothers. I think y'all kind of out in the cut, like, got to chill a little bit till we all at. We all at. It comes from a place of rejection. It's you pushing the envelope to see if she's going to reject you. And when she doesn't reject you, there's an excitement and there are some things, and you mix it with the adrenaline from the fight, all of these things that come together, and it makes you feel satisfied that after you have cursed her out, disrespected her, or said something condescending, that she's still willing to give herself to you because it gives you a sense of security. Thank you, Ethiopian Queen. God bless you. Awesome. Welcome, brother. It gives you a sense of security. And that's why, even after it's over with, because for a man, once sex has happened, the fight is over. We can't talk about that anymore. We just reconcile. So, but that's why it's such a toxic practice. Thank you, Sister Raquel. God bless you. But that's why it's such a toxic practice, because what it does is a woman needs resolve. Like the situation needs to have an end to it. Every situation, every problem has life and it needs to die, and we need to bury it for a woman. But for a lot of guys, not the entirety of guys, just like not the entirety, but for a lot of guys, no, we just need to sleep on top of it. Right? Addicted to reconciliation. I love it. We just got to make help. We got to give the devil a porn show. We ain't kicking him out. We just going to do it in front of him. And what that does is it breaks the relationship all the more, because you have a lot of issues that are living with you that you are bringing. You're trying to silence the issues without killing them. And you're using sex in that. And so for the man, a lot of times it's his way of diminishing a situation with the woman. And a lot of times women, out of fear of potentially breaking up, disappointing the man, or anything, out of fear, a woman will give in to make up sex. But over the course of time, it's going to take a wearing, or it's going to begin to wear on her, because women typically host the issues in their hearts. Yeah, I feel like I should be charging $1 million for these classes. I should be having a class and it should be $1 million, because I can tell I'm just playing with y'all. But no, for real. This right here, well, for women host issues in their hearts. Women host their offenses. Women host issues. This is why a lot of times, brothers, hear me when I tell you this. This is why it manifests in a woman, whereas a woman will start disliking sex because she'll start to mentally associate it with trauma. She'll start mentally associating it with trauma. So you'll start getting a lot of not tonight, I have a headache, or her pretending to be asleep. She heard you get in the bed and she gave a fake snore. I can tell you how. No, I ain't gonna tell. I ain't gonna tell the secret. I can tell you how you can tell the snores are fake. They shouldn't be timed. If it, if you can make a rhythm out of it, she faking. Because now you've somehow in your what rejection does is rejection is going to make her reject you in your twisting and perversion of sex. You've come to believe that that signifies that she'll never leave you, and you got adrenaline from the fight, you got all of these things, and at the same time it puts a pacifier in her mouth. You come to believe that, but really she's giving it up, and in many cases from the spirit of fear, not just the spirit of fear, but because she does want to accelerate the reconciliation as well. So she begins to host the issues in her heart. Consequently, her body doesn't respond to you like it used to. I should have been a psychiatrist. I'm telling you. I wanted to be a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. I want to study the stuff. I didn't want to sit in front of the people. They want to kind of sit in front of serial killers, kind of pick their brains apart. It has everything to do, for her, she hosts the issue in her heart. And when she begins to host the issue in her heart, her body, because a woman is an intimate creature, and the way that a woman is wired is that her body responds to security. If you make her feel loved and safe, her body will warm up and lubricate itself. If she doesn't feel that, her body will communicate, her mind will communicate with her body that this is trauma. Consequently, you end up having a traumatic sexual relationship with her that feels like voluntary rape. Voluntary rape. It's almost like a woman that's been kidnapped. I'm telling you guys, a woman that's been kidnapped by a man and he's been beating her and she's afraid for her life. And at some point, he doesn't have to rip her clothes off anymore. She just takes them off and gets in the bed with him. And she gives in. She gives in out of fear. She's not giving in because she loves him. She's not giving in because she wants him, but she does it out of fear. When a woman is in a relationship with a man who wrestles with rejection and he uses trauma or traumatic sex in his attempts to heighten to have this heightened orgasm, heightened orgasm, adrenaline filled orgasm, because he's just traumatized her. And now he can be the hero in the bedroom at the same time. And he's pacifying her at the same time. For him, he thinks that she feels the same way he does. But I'm telling you, to the guys, she doesn't. She's traumatized. And over the course of time, her body's going to respond to that. Over the course of time, her body's going to say, I don't want him on top of me. And I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to sex, I remember somebody said, you talk a lot about sex. I sure do, Donna. But when it comes to sex, a woman has to feel secure. If a woman doesn't feel secure, it is a form of Stockholm syndrome. If she doesn't feel secure, a lot of times she'll begin to give in to a man's demands, and even in a friendly way, just to keep him from being upset. But her body and her mind will begin to respond in a negative way. So for those of you, when you get married, to my brothers, to my sisters, please, you got to understand how your mind works. But to my brothers, you need to hear this when I tell you this. You don't want to have traumatic sex with your wife. You want to always reconcile every issue, and don't allow adrenaline to falsify an orgasm for you. Don't allow adrenaline to come in your bedroom where you're not really considering. Because a lot of times women will say, hey, no, I have no problem with that. But deep down on the inside, you can tell that she has a problem because she's not as active. A woman who feels safe and secure will a lot of times want to have sex more than you do. Y'all better cut this little part of this, cut it out. Cut your favorite parts of the video out. A woman who feels secure in a relationship typically will have a healthy, very active desire for sex. So when I hear people say that they go 2 weeks or even a week without sex, a week without sex is weird. That's weird in a marriage. Unless it's the week of her, you know, that's weird in a marriage. But when there's weeks and spaces between, it's because trauma has entered into the bedroom. And a lot of times, I'm talking to my brothers, a lot of times a man doesn't know that. Because a man can be in a bedroom and he can be whacked, but he think he's done something. Because a lot of times a woman won't say anything because she's afraid of disappointing him. Women a lot of times will sacrifice their own sexual desire to make sure that the man is happy. But that's a whole other message. So that's a whole other message. I'm gonna do a sex class one day, and not a sex class, sex ed class, because I don't want nobody to get no thoughts. A sex education class, but it's to help you to understand how the mind of the woman works, and when you understand how a sister is wired and how a man is wired, when you understand that, you guys will have a very healthy sex life when you get married. When you get married, don't do it outside of marriage. But you like makeup sex. That is a sign of rejection. You like makeup sex. You like to sit there and start a fight, and then you like to heighten that fight, and then you want to go up to the female and be like, "You mad? You mad?" Or what have you? And she'd be like, "Move, move, move." And then you sit there and go to kissing her, and then y'all have wild, crazy sex and what have you, and now you off in their sleep, and you off on cloud nine, but your girl is traumatized. She's traumatized. She's housing all of that. And like I said, it's going to start manifesting in the fact that she's not going to necessarily want to have sex with you as often as she should, because you are using trauma rather than using intimacy. Okay, think of it this way. Intimacy with a woman or with a guy is very similar to intimacy with God, but intimacy with God is opening up your heart to God, is worshiping God, or what have you. Do you think you can traumatize God and get into his presence? That's a question. If you ever want to understand sex, think of worship. Do you think that you can traumatize God? You think you can sit there and tell God that you're gonna leave him, you're gonna walk away, you're gonna become an atheist, you're gonna become a 5%er, you're gonna walk away and do something crazy? Do you think that you can traumatize God and then have a heightened encounter with him? If you can't do that with him, why do you think you can do that with your spouse? If you ever want to know how intimacy works, think about intimacy with God. And if you do that with your spouse, there's a big chance that you probably do that with God as well. You probably keep threatening to leave. You probably keep threatening to walk away. You go months and you go weeks and stuff without praying to him. Meaning you try to put him on punishment, and then you expect to have a very big climatic experience with him, where now he's gonna come back and bless you, which causes you to deal with perpetual disappointment, which starts to cause the deterioration of your faith as well. All right. Number 11, you panic when a person doesn't respond to you fast enough. You panic when a person doesn't respond to you fast enough. Somebody sends you a text, you send a text message and they don't respond, you get panicky, especially in romantic relationships. You panic. So in a romantic relationship, you send a text message and you say, "Hey sis, um no, romantic relationship, you send a text message to your guy and he doesn't respond. You panic. You take it to heart. And you sitting up there like, okay, I text him. And so typically when people deal with rejection, what they'll do, let's say the man gets off at 6 o'clock and his job is 30 minutes away. It's 7:30. He still hasn't come home yet. You estimate, because we give people 15-minute graces, typically you estimate that he should have been home getting off at 6. Job is 30 minutes away. He should have been home by 6:45. Anything beyond 6:45, you should have called. So you call him and he doesn't answer the phone. You text him, he doesn't answer the phone. 7 o'clock comes and goes. Then now we're in the 7:15, 7:20. By this time, somebody who deals with rejection has tormented, or they've allowed that demon to torment the crap out of them. They've allowed that demon to torment the crap out of them. So by this time, she's angry. And we talked about this on yesterday. We talked about the Leviathan spirit. At this particular time, Leviathan has come to the surface. Leviathan is a spirit. What Leviathan does is very much similar to a crocodile. It comes to the surface, and you can tell when it's at the surface because people begin to manifest. So it comes to the surface, and what it does is it begins to torment. So it's wrapping itself around that person's mind. So what it's doing is it says to her, "He cheating on you. It's with that girl that he worked with, that girl that works in HR." Because she rolled her eyes at you and you saw how she was walking in front of him. She dropped the paper on the floor intentionally while you were there, bent over, all of that stuff. So now you have a whole story that you're formulating together in your mind. And not only that, you somehow find yourself mentally in another bedroom and watching him have sex with somebody else. Now, it's not a reality, it's a fantasy. It's, well, not even a fantasy, but it's just a thought. So you imagine him in a hotel room or at this girl's house doing it up with her while you're at home tormented. While you're at home tormented. And now you're upset, not because he's not answering his phone. You're really angry with the situation. So that's going to determine the height of your response when he walks through that door. So finally, he walks through the door and you like, "Where you been?" He say, and if anybody on here with this name, forgive me, it's just a name coming to my head. He said, "Not today, Patricia. Not today, Patricia." And you like, "No, not today." What's happening is Leviathan's at the surface of the water. And now Leviathan, when it goes under, is going to start twisting. It's at the surface now. The head is at the surface. And now he says, "Not today, not today." Now he's already made it up in his mind it's going to be a fight, because his demon is triggering your demon is triggering his demon, the whole. Now he's made it up in his mind it's going to be a fight. Turns out you didn't call his job trying to see if he's still there. They say no. He left at 7 o'clock or what have you. They say, "Oh, he clocked out at 7:03. You sit up there, you say, "Where you been? I know you weren't at work." "You weren't at work." He said, "I was at work." "No, I called your job." He said, "You called my job." "Yeah, I called your job." "Yes, I called your job." And they said, "You left at 7:03. You left at 6:03. They said you left at 6:03. It is 7:30. Why you just coming home? Where you been?" He says, "Not today." Now, in his mind, his pride is kicking in. And so for him, Leviathan's at the surface, his pride is kicking in. He doesn't want to explain because he doesn't want you to control him. He doesn't want to feel controlled. He doesn't want to feel castrated. And the same, so both of y'all demons are playing. It's like, I call it's like Barbie and Ken. This is what demons do to y'all. Demons playing with y'all. Demons playing with y'all. But you panic. You panic. You get frustrated simply because he didn't give you the response or he didn't respond fast enough. Now, if you uncover it, because he ain't going to say nothing because he wants you to look like a dummy. If you uncover it, you may discover that he gave his coworker a ride home. And while you were calling him, He was in a deep conversation with his coworker in the car. And yes, he should have answered the phone. He could have answered the phone, but he decided not to. He decided it ain't gonna be that long or what have you. Had he come home and you not fought with him, you'd have said, "Welcome home." He'd have been like, "Hey, what's up, babe? Hey, no, nothing. Was starting to wonder if I was a single woman. You ain't coming home." Or having he'd have been like, "Oh, it's fine." Now Jerry asked me to give him a ride home. But no, Leviathan's at the surface. Thank you, Sister Raquel. God bless you, sis. Leviathan's at the surface. And that's that. And that not only works in romantic relationships. I've seen this in platonic relationships. I've talked about it before. I've had friends that I've had to close the door on because, goodness gracious, thankfully they're not that common. But I've had a couple of them that would get emotional because I didn't answer my phone. That would get emotional. I'm talking about will start a straight up fight. Want to talk every day on the phone for hours at a time. And when I didn't answer my phone, we'll hang up, call back, then send me an ugly text message. When I do talk to him, yeah, I bet you was on the phone. You don't even like to answer my call. I'm like, girl. Anyhow, you panic when a person doesn't respond to you fast enough. Typically, this is centered around you feeling like you're being rejected. You feel like you're being rejected. You got a whole host of thoughts going through your mind, and that's not the case. Sometimes people are in the bathroom. Sometimes people are taking a nap. Sometimes people are on the other end of the phone. Sometimes people can have company, what have you. And so you panic and you get frustrated and you overthink because people are not answering your calls. That is the spirit of rejection. Number 12, you are afraid of confrontation. You are afraid of confrontation. The reason you are afraid of confrontation, I'm not going to stay here long, is because you call it confrontation too. You're afraid of people rejecting you. You're afraid of people rejecting you. And also, you probably come from a narcissistic environment where you had the Leviathan spirit who constantly twisted your words and gaslit you. And so now you're afraid of being gaslit. You're afraid of people twisting your words. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a confrontational person. I will confront, but I like to get my stuff together before I do. I like to make sure that I have everything lined up. I like to have my ducks in a row. I like to be prayed about. I like to make sure I heard from God before I say anything. I will let a situation go on for months and not say a word and just pray on it because I like to make sure I come with clarity because I know what kind of spirits are in people. And people will twist things. People will sit up there and they will gaslight and play games and act like they didn't do nothing or what have you. And it'll be, basically, where's your evidence? What have you. But you are afraid of confrontation. You are afraid of it. And you got to stop being that way. One, you got to stop being around people that you have to confront. And then two, whenever you have to be in a situation like you're working with a person, when you have to be around people that, you have to confront, you have to learn how to go up to them. And like I said, stop calling it confrontation, call it a meeting. Start saying that, rehearse it in your mind. I need to have a meeting with Sister Jane Doe. I need to have a meeting with Sister Jane Doe because there's been some issues in the workplace. What have you? When you say meeting, it typically changes the narrative in your mind as to what notes to write down for the meeting or what have you. But when you say confrontation, you typically think argument. So I would say change your language, and that'll make it a lot easier. Number 13, you rather lose out than to be rejected. You rather lose out than to be rejected. And this one can fall under pride. People who deal with pride, for example, would rather end a relationship than to be found in error because they fear losing control. They fear losing control. They would rather lose a relationship than to find themselves having to be humbled in any cost. What was I? You're afraid. You'd rather lose out than to be rejected. You won't try or attempt to do anything because you're afraid that you'll fail at it. So you'll much rather not do it at all. You'll much rather not do it at all than to fail or to be rejected. You would much rather not try to build a friendship or what have you than to potentially be rejected. I'm going to move on from there. Number 14, you have never dated with your clothes on. We're going to talk right now. All right, we only got two more. We only got two more. You have never dated. You've never been in a relationship. Now, you probably had a few short-term relationships with a few guys that you weren't that interested in. But when it comes to serious relationships, most of them you've never dated with your clothes on. Fornication, for the most part, in many cases, in the majority of cases, is centered around your fear of the man walking away. It is your offering to him to get him in your attempt to go ahead and accelerate a soul tie, and not only accelerate it, but to strengthen it. It is your attempt to take the relationship to the next level and to show him how serious you are. Is an attempt to increase the intimacy in the relationship. So that is your way of trying to hold on to him and prove it's you trying to hijack your next season. You trying to hijack your next season. You trying to hijack your next season. Whenever a man gets to a certain level with you, or a woman, let me show you something. And a lot of these thoughts are just developing. They're still in development. But let me show you something. A picture, and I can say that it's pretty much still in development, but I'm going to show you what I got so far. All right. Just a picture. This picture is not going to make sense, but that's why I'm going to have to explain it. So we're going to imagine this is the heart. Now, we know that the heart and the chest don't look like nothing like this, but the heart is really the mind. But since we affiliate the Valentine with the heart, let's use the Valentine because I think this making more sense. This is the core of your being, the core of your heart. You're supposed to guard the entirety of your heart, but there are levels to your heart. There are levels to your heart. So I want you to imagine that there is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. It got real sloppy as I went up, but these are all ascensions. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and then level 5. This is getting closer to the core of the heart. So a lot of you get into these relationships where, first and foremost, the Bible says, guard your heart, for out of your pores the issues of life. When you get into a relationship, when you're accustomed to romance and when you're accustomed to ungodly soul ties, when you are addicted to serotonin, oxytocin, the whole concept of being in love, then one of the problems that you already have is that you are already trying to accelerate it just to get to that feeling, because it's an amazing feeling. I've been there before. It's an amazing feeling, right? The heart is the mind. It's an amazing feeling to have that like I'm in love with somebody. It feels amazing. I've been there many, many times. It's a great feeling. We love it. It feels so good, or what have you. But to get there, if you did things logically, if you did things the way God wanted you to do them, there would be no need to rush it. You will stay on the outskirts of that, whereas you would more than anything build a friendship. First, it will start off as just talking, we cool, but then you will build a friendship with the guy. And you will find that at some point in the friendship, romantic feelings may start to come in. That means that you may start having a romantic interest in him. When that happens, that typically means he's entered here. This is the outskirts, the courtyards of your heart. Here, let's say this is the spot where you start feeling like you're in love. This is the spot where you start feeling like you're in love. But you're trying to get him, you're trying to go all the way in, because every acceleration comes with these great feelings. Every acceleration comes, right? It's more than just the attention, but every acceleration comes with those things. Every time, relationships are very, I can say predictable in a sense, but not so predictable. What I mean by that is you come to understand that in a relationship, when there is no ascension in your past, because of the men you've dated and the way you've dated in your past, typically when there is no ascension, when things kind of die down, the relationship ends. So you end up trying to keep the relationship in a up and up. So here, first and foremost, if I'm talking to a guy, I'm supposed to be guarding my heart. I'm supposed to be testing the spirit. I'm supposed to be getting to know him, see if he's saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit. We're also supposed to be praying about each other. This is a foreign concept to the Christian, but you're actually supposed to be praying about each other. I'm supposed to be praying about who he is to me, praying to see if God approves this. He's supposed to be doing the same. We're getting to know each other. We're affiliating, what have you. But then we're starting to build a friendship. But then we're kind of moving. So what we're doing is there's progression. But in that progression, it has to be a straight line. It looks like a death. It has to be a straight line for a while, but then it gradually ascends. It has to be a gradual ascension. That's how healthy relationships are built, because emotionalism destroys relationships. As we are ascending, as we are going through the relationship, we may get to a spot where we realize, hey, we are romantically interested in each other. I want to get to know him, but we need to pray about it. He prays, I pray, God says yes. God says yes. That doesn't, just because God says yes doesn't mean I'm supposed to stop guarding my heart. I'm only supposed to give him what God gives me the wisdom to give him. I'm not supposed to tell him everything there is to know about me. I'm not supposed to open up and just unload on this dude. I'm supposed to get to know him and let him get to know me gradual. Because hear me when I say this, when you get married, you're still not going to know the person in their entirety. You will spend the rest of your life getting to know them. The reason you're not going to know them in their entirety, because none of you know yourself in your entirety. You don't know what's all on the inside of you. You have not come to terms with certain things. You don't fully know yourself yet. So it's a gradual process. It's a gradual process. So there has to be an ascension, a slow ascension. Most people want to get here fast. There's a speed limit you're supposed to go at in relationships, but because you want to go here fast, because you want to get up here fast, you go past the speed limit. So you go into the love bombing. You go into the love bombing. You start talking about, I'm in love with you. I can't stop thinking about you. You're such a sweet person. You're an amazing person. You start saying, you go into the love bombing. And once the relationship gets to a space, hear me when I say this. Every last one of your relationships have went like this and in that. You're used to this. It's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to move in a gradual ascent like this. But every time you get to a space like this, because you deal with rejection, that scares the crap out of you. When a relationship levels off, it scares the crap out of you. When a relationship levels off, it scares the crap out of you. So in that moment, you get tormented. So now, when you start getting into that space, when a person gets to level 2 in your heart or level 3 in your heart, you feel like, now I don't feel like he's getting to know me. He's not trying. He's not calling. He's not doing this. That's a time when you're supposed to analyze and pray. But instead, what you do is decide, I'm going to invite him over. I'm going to tell you a trick of the enemy. The enemy wants to get you in an ungodly relationship with somebody who poses as a godly person. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I can think the entirety of you can benefit from this if you're not married. But the enemy wants to get you in a relationship with an ungodly person, sometimes a person who disguises themselves as a Christian, But he wants to get you in a relationship with a person like that to get you to build a soul tie simply because you deal with rejection. And he wants to get you into a relationship like that because he knows that the minute that person begins to pull back, you're going to panic and give it up. So it starts off with good morning text. It starts off with, what are you doing today? I want to see you. I want to be around you. In the beginning, you're inseparable. He wants to be around you every single day, all day long. He wants to be in your face. He kissing on you. The beginning, everything is just love bombing. It let's go here, let's do that, let's have this encounter, that let's have that encounter. Then all of a sudden, the speed limit changes. At one point, y'all was speeding. Now he's not even going the speed limit. Now he is going slow. So one day you look up, he ain't gave me no good morning text. So now you text him, you say, so you're not gonna say good morning? He doesn't respond. It goes to the point where he doesn't answer some texts. Whenever you get on the phone with him, he's relatively dry. He's not as excited or engaging. He's not asking you out on dates. It's a trick of the enemy. So then what you do is, out of your panic and your fear, you somehow instinctively realize, because it's a familiar spirit, you know what that spirit wants. So you call him, he doesn't answer the phone. You text him. You say, hey, just want to know if you want to come over here tonight. He responds. He says, what time? If you say 6, he's not interested. You say maybe around 9 o'clock. But yeah, you always talk about you don't like to hang out past 10:30. Nah, we can hang out tonight. In other words, you're telling him he can spend the night. And when he comes over to your house, you have sex with him. You try to pretend, but you have sex with him. Because that's all you know. That's how you know how to have a relationship. You have sex with him. And now the acceleration starts again. You get some momentum going in the relationship. Now he's calling again. Now he's texting again. But all of his calls are centered around, can I come over? All of his calls are centered around, girl, you had me, you had me running around, and I was going to the store. I'm like, man, I gotta hurry and get up over there to her. Then there's deceleration again. And now you start sensing that, and now you feel like I gotta take it up again. I gotta take it up again. I gotta do something else. Cause he's starting to decelerate again. So now I gotta plan a trip with him. Yeah, I love having been unsaved because you learn so much. Not just from my own life, because I don't think I've done that part, but I've seen that 1,000 times with women. So now you invite them on a trip, or you have to increase. You got to keep putting something on that altar. You got to keep putting something on that altar, trying to get the flame going. You got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And it eventually fails. Because God was trying to deliver you from him, but you kept offering yourself up to him in an attempt to hold on to him. And I'm going to give you revelation on this before we move to the next one. When you see that happening, your war is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of this dark world and spiritual wickedness in high places. When you see that happening, whatever demon is in him is now requesting a ransom of you to continue in your relationship with him. Whatever demon was in him. And if you ever sat in a room where you've ever sat in on counseling sessions, I've done plenty of counseling sessions with couples. And I can tell you typically when a couple, let's say they get married, that does not stop. It does not end. Their demon will continue to put them up for ransom. Their demon will continue to demand a ransom of you. So that person may, in a marriage, all of a sudden want to sleep in a separate bedroom. All of a sudden, the person is very distant from you in a marriage. All of a sudden, the person is very condescending and very cold. And you're trying to figure out, and you talk to them, and they say, I just don't feel. And really, what that is that demon is saying, I need another level of control. That demon is saying, I'm not satisfied with your level of worship with me. I need you to take it up to the next level. Your worship of me has been, you've gotten a little too familiar with me. I know I'm a familiar spirit, but you've gotten a little too familiar with me. And so I need you to increase. Otherwise, I'm going to take this man from you or this woman from you. Because the person is under that demon's control. That demon goes in and talks in their ear and it keeps telling them everything. Look at him. He funny looking. Look at you married. Dude over there asleep. Look at him. It will cause you to despise. It will cause you to despise that guy. And the whole time, or it cause that guy to despise you. And the whole time, what that demon is doing is it's basically requiring a ransom of the other person. You're gonna have to up your ante. You're gonna have to do something greater. I'm gonna take your wife. I'm gonna take her. I'm gonna take your man. Okay. You've never dated with your clothes on. Ever. Never been in a relationship where you have kept your clothes on. You feel like you have to have sex in order to hold on to a person. When James 4:7 says, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So that means that if I'm obedient to God and I submit myself to God and I resist the temptation of the enemy, the devil is going to leave and he's going to take his sons with him. He's going to take anybody that didn't come from God because obedience scares the enemy. See, if I stay in God, I stay in the will of God, the enemy can't touch me. So if I look at the guy and I say no sex outside of marriage, you're not coming to my house. I'm not coming to your house. It's not going to go down. I'm not going to accelerate in a soul tie with you. We're going to get to know each other in a logical way, and we're going to pray. And hey, that dude is going to leave. But we were taught erroneously to try to make him hold on. So I may notice that the text messages start to decline and all of that. It's not for me to question him and say, hey, why are your text messages declining? It's for me to solidify that, you know what, we're not for each other. Y'all got to hear me before I move on to the next one. In a moment like that, the person has left, but they left the door open so they can come back. They have not officiated that they are ending things with you because that demon is keeping the door open to see if you deal with idolatry. Are you willing to give a sacrifice? In a situation like that, your best out is to solidify the end of that relationship. If I'm sitting up talking to a guy and we're trying to get to know each other and he start playing mind games, my best out is not to sit there and play mind games with him, to try to figure out or text him and say, so you haven't called. No, if I text and I call and he's not answering my text or call and he's not responding to me or he's not calling me, that says he's not interested. And I'm not going to go above and beyond what God has told me to go. I'm not going into sin to keep him. I'm not going to give the sin offering. So I may text him. He doesn't. I call him. I go to voicemail. Hey, let's just say his name is Troy. Hey, Troy, hope all is well your way. I've been trying to reach you, have been unsuccessful for the last few days. I can tell you're relatively busy. No disrespect to you. Wanted to have a conversation with you, but I think it's clear that you're not interested. And I can be honest with you, I don't think I'm interested anymore as well. But I do wish you well. I am, let's say he's a believer. I'm your sister in Christ. I got your back if you need prayer, anything like that. But at this point, I am ending our communication. Now, what's going to happen beyond that is called gaslighting. He's going to try to make me feel like it was a situation beyond his control and I was being cold. So he's going to tell me his grandma died. Or his cousin got shot. His cousin Pee Wee. You know, my cousin Pee Wee, the one that was in a wheelchair. Yeah, you know, he lived in Compton. And he got in some gang violence and he forgot that he couldn't run no more. And he tried to do a roll by and he got shot. So I've been grieving Pee Wee for the last 3 days. And some of you are silly enough to feel guilty. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. No, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Now you already ended it. It's okay. Because see how you do? I'm dealing with my cousin Pee Wee's death and you know what have you. For the last 3 days, my family. No. Revelation. If he was interested in you, you would know what was going on. If he was interested in you, you would get a text, a call. More than likely, call, hey babe, keep me in prayer. My cousin Pee Wee just got shot in the roll by. Sorry. I'm sorry. He said he forgot that, yeah, he tried to roll by. He couldn't get away fast enough. And they got Pee Wee and just keep me in prayer. I'm assembling with my family. You may not hear from me as much, but I just wanted to call, let you know that I'm okay. And that, and most of the time he's going to stay in contact with you. People use trauma and traumatic situations to avoid responsibility. So if he calls me with saying Pee Wee died, well, rest in peace, Pee Wee. And I can't believe you said you're going to end things with me. I still stand my ground. Because at the end of the day, if you were interested in me, I wouldn't be just hearing about Pee Wee after I done sat here for 3 days and I have not heard from you. I'll give you this and then I'll move on. If a man goes 24 hours without contacting you, he's not interested. Now, granted, there are situations and circumstances that can be beyond a person's control. But for the most part, when a person is genuine, I've never had somebody who was genuinely interested in me. I've never had the situation. I left my phone in the car. My friends, every last one of my friends have dealt with that. I left my phone in the car. I'm sorry, my phone died. And I have to be honest with him. I'm like, sis, he's not interested. Okay. Of course, you give people grace. That happened a second time. Child, that man ain't interested. He was with a whole female. He was with somebody else. I can sit here and say 453 of you on here right now. How many of you have gotten the, okay, write it down here. Which one have you gotten? My phone died or I left my phone in the car. Which one you got? Because it's common with women. It is common. I've heard it 1,000 times. I can personally say, and don't let this discourage you from writing it in there, but I can personally say I've never gotten it because anytime a man has pursued me, he's always known that this is that type of female you can do that with. Not saying that I'm mean or ugly or condescending in any way, because I'm none of those things. But I don't like mind games. Both, neither one, both. A phone died. That, yeah, those are common excuses. And the reason I have y'all to post them up, I left my phone home, right? The reason I have y'all to post them up so you can see how common it is. Because listen, hear me. For those of you who are bold enough to respond, I appreciate you, because there are lurkers over here that they in the car crying right now because they need to see that. Because old boy told them, thank you, Sister Marina, God bless you, sis. Old boy said, and I'm gonna tell you how. I'm sorry, my phone died. You see how that lack of interest? I'm sorry. That's his demon saying you're gonna have to give a greater offering. You want that interpreted? I feel like I'm a translator for that. But that's his demon saying, um, I need a greater ransom. Ran out of minutes. Oh my gosh, people still use minutes. Yeah, I use some of these too. I ain't gonna lie. I love it. I love it. Left my phone died. Yeah, you got one time. You get one grace from with one time. That second time that you're not interested. You know what? We're not going to play these games. We're not going to play these games. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, heart to heart. I was in a hospital. That's funny. Old exes said that about the minutes. Yes, the phone in the shop, and old boy was a whole youth pastor. Texted 4 weeks later. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Nope. I've always had, I used to say this when I was in the world. No, I was saved. I didn't even believe Christians could have demons. I used to say this all the time. I can make your demons speak. And it's actually true nowadays, because when I'm casting out demons, they talk. I didn't even know about it, but I used to tell people I can make your demons speak. Minute I knew how to trigger people. I knew how to trigger people. I was in jail. Jesus. My phone was stolen. Yeah, I've heard. I remember one friend, she got, the phone was broken. The whole nine. The whole nine. Some of y'all are on here. Y'all don't even know. This is God giving you confirmation to leave that man alone. I have them to type it so you see that this is actually common. This is something, and it typically signals that the guy is not interested. I've never had a case where a guy who was genuinely wholeheartedly in, I've never had cases where, I can say this, I can probably think off the top of my head maybe two relationships where we weren't actively talking to each other. And that was when I was like young, and they lived in different states, and there was no cell phones. And so it was a long distance fee. But I can't tell you this, they would get in trouble trying to find some way to call. You got the jail one too? Lord. No, you know what? I just thought about, I got one. I fell asleep. I've got that before. And that came when my brother hooked my ex up with another female. Okay, I'm getting ready to move on from there. My brother used to have this thing. Uh, my brother used to do this thing to me. I couldn't stand him growing up. My sister still, she has pure hatred for my brother. But I couldn't stand him growing up. My brother used to have this thing where he used to like to hook my boyfriends up with different women. And when I whine and complain about it, he would just say, he was doing me a favor. Oh, he is. Oh, trust me. Trust me. Trust me. You can do a movie on him alone. I kid you not. He used to like to hook any guy up that I was in a relationship with another female. And then he'll rat on the dude. You really be asleep? Okay. But he would rat on the dude. He would tell on the dude. He would tell on him. He would lure him in, and then he'd tell on him. And I never understood how guys would fall for it. There was this one moment in my life where if I started talking to a guy, I would warn him about my brother, but he wouldn't listen. I'm like, I don't want you around my brother. I'm telling you, my brother gonna do this. And they still will fall for it. My brother is a master of manipulation. And he would sit there, he would tell the guy, because he got this Chris Tucker voice. Hey man, I ain't gonna tell my sister, man, I ain't gonna tell my sister, but man, I know this fine red bone. I know this fine red bone. And she was talking about you. She interested in you. He did that to one of my exes. And that's when I remember getting I fell asleep. I was like, oh, you fell asleep. And I was probably, I don't know. I don't know how old I was at that time. I had to be about 19. I think I was dating him for the second time. Because I dated when I was 16. I ended it because he cheated. So 19, started to try to date the guy again. And my brother had this access to the dude. And my brother decides to hook him up with somebody. And my brother used to do that. It was the worst case of sibling rivalry ever because he thought it was hilarious. He thought it was hilarious. So he hooked the guy up with somebody else. And then he told me about the girl. Hey, Tiff. I'm going to make up a name for this guy. I call him Troy. Hey, Tiff. Troy talking to a girl named such and such. Troy talking to a girl named Sharon. You just made up a name. What? Yeah. So I had told him that about this girl named Sharon. And I ain't gonna lie, I introduced him because I wanted to see if he would fall for it. And yet he been talking to her. Then he called Sharon, and Sharon called me. And I'm like, hello? And she said, girl, listen, I did not know. I said, what happened? She said, I did not know you were dating Troy. I was like, yeah, I didn't know that he was out there trying to date somebody. Yeah, your brother introduced us, and now he just decided to tell me. But you know what, Tip? I'm stepping out. You ain't got to worry about me. I'm like, oh no. If you want to be stepping trust, it's gonna be a 2-step because I'm stepping out too. I'm done. And I call Troy. I'm like, oh, so you was asleep? Yeah, I was asleep. I was like, well, rest in peace, because I'm done with you. Rest in peace, bro. What? I'm like, rest in peace. I'm done. The dude stuck around for years to come. He stayed close to my family. Did not want to understand. I was like, I am not doing this with you. I am not doing this with you. Because I'm not. But that was one of the things my brother used to do. I'm not going to go. I'm going to go ahead and get into this last one. The last two ones, and then I'm going to get ready to close. But I have a ton of stories of my brother hooking guys up that I was dating with other women. I got tons of stories. And he would be, my brother's light skinned. He would turn red with laughter. He would hit the floor laughing. He thought it was hilarious and I thought it was berserk. How could you fall for that from somebody's brother? How could you fall? Like, that's my brother. How would you fall for that and genuinely believe that he ain't gonna tell? It was a trap and what have you. But I can say for a fact 3 guys failed that test. So I don't have probably more. They failed the test. It was messed up. I used to be mad, but then I would calm down and realize that if they were decent, they wouldn't have failed it. But it was messed up that he would do it. It was messed up that he would do it. He would hook them up with somebody. He even had a case, and I told this story before, and I'm gonna move on from here. It was one case where he didn't have a girl, and he pretended to be the girl, and he was writing notes to an ex of mine, and taking it to him, talking about it was a red bone down in the apartment, and he ain't gonna tell me. And the girl saw him, and she's interested, and the ex was actually responding. And when I got home, I came from out of town. I got home. My sister told me. I looked at my brother. He was like, "Hey Tim, yeah, I'm telling you, right?" And he started talking. I was like, why don't I have a normal family, Lord? Other people's family is soccer practice. They doing stuff like this. My brother is writing love notes to my boyfriend. And I told that story. The dude lived next door to me. I walked right over to his apartment, walked up the stairs, opened the door. He's like, "Hey, baby." I'm like, saw the letter on the table because my brother told me. He's like, "You go there, it's on the table." I took it to him. He was reading. He put it on the table. So I went in there, saw it. He's like, "Hey, baby." I'm like, "Hey." I put the letter up off the table. He tried to get it before I couldn't, and we ran around the table. I'm reading and running around the table, and finally he just stopped because he realized he couldn't catch me. And then after I finished reading, I balled it up, threw it, hit him in the chest with it, and I told him, I said, "Congratulations, you're now dating my brother." Because the letter was written by my brother. There was no girl. I was like, "Congratulations, you're now dating my brother." And I proceeded to walk out, and of course, he proceeded to chase me, baby. And I'm like, "It's all good. It's all good." I said, "Now I can say I have somebody that left me for my brother. He cheated on me with my brother, bro." He's like, "Nah, nah, I'll just." I said, "It's done. It's done." And because I was petty, I dated his best friend. That I was petty. I wasn't saved then. I wasn't saved. I was like, all right. But his best friend had an eye for me. So, all right, let's go ahead. Talk. Let's get back to the message. Let's get back to the message. I can be funny or what have you, but I was a mess of a person. I can honestly say I was a mess of a person. All right. Signs that you deal with rejection. You got two more. You got two more. You love to control others. You have to be in control. You cannot have a relationship where you're not in control. And typically that's centered around you fear that if you're not in control, they're going to reject you. You see what happened? We're having his best friend. I'll say this. I won't go there. I'll just say this. He had a guy. I didn't know the guy was his friend when I met him. I didn't know that was his friend. I never paid really much attention to him. I just knew that there was this really good looking guy that started pursuing the crap out of me. First, I rejected him. I remember cursing the guy out. I remember the guy came into my house one time. I went flat off. I'm like, "Who you think you are? Get out of my house," and what have you. But over the course of time, he apologized. He's like, "I'm sorry, I came at you wrong. I like you," or what have you. And I was like, "Okay, cool." And so we exchanged numbers, started talking, and right when I was talking, he was like, "You don't recognize me?" I'm like, "Recognize you how?" He's like, "Oh, I was friends with him." I'm like, "Dude, that's messed up." But okay. I was a mess. I was walking in the curse. So that's all I say. That's all I say. I'll say that. That didn't go much of anywhere. Obviously, it was just young girl being stupid. But you try to control others. Yeah, he knew me, and I didn't reckon. I didn't know him. He knew me. I didn't know him. He saw me, and he had been checking me out, but I didn't know that because I didn't pay attention to him or what have you. Obviously, yeah, I didn't pay attention to him or what have you. And I think probably the reason he was a really good looking guy, extremely good looking guy. But that's probably what you would think. You would think that would make people pay attention, but typically, a lot of times with guys, if I was interested in a guy, I just wasn't paying attention to him. That was just yeah. So you try to control others. You try to control others. You feel the need to be in control. It's hard for you, even in conversations, you have to dominate the conversation. You have to dominate everything because you're afraid of if you relinquish control, that people will see how broken or shallow you believe yourself to be or really are in some cases, and they will walk away from you. I get it. He did it on his friend. Yeah, he did. But I did. I actually dated his friend for a couple of years. I dated him for a couple of years. Like I said, I was a mess of a female. I was truly a mess of a person. Truly, when I tell you, I laugh a lot of times, and I say God really had to save me because I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't got saved. Because I was a vengeful mess. No, I'm not gonna say that. I take that back. I don't think I was. I don't think I was. I don't think I was really that spiteful. Honestly, I wasn't spiteful. I wasn't too much spiteful at all. I could be, because when I think about my friends, they were straight up spiteful. They were straight up spiteful, like extremely spiteful. Um, I had one friend. You cheat on her one time, that was it. She was a gorgeous girl. Man cheat on her one time, that was it. She would bury this man. She would bury him. I'm talking about she would bury him. She knew she was beautiful. She knew she could have any man she wants. She would bury this dude. She would take him to she would take him to hell and back. But you try to control others. That's number 15. You don't like having relationships where you're not in control. All of your friendships have to be controlled. Um, Everything. You even try to control your pastors. And I have to go here because a lot of times when people get into that, that's a spirit of witchcraft. That's what rejection does, is it leads you to a spirit of witchcraft. Milo is telling me that I've been on here too long. Hey, beautiful. Hey, baby. But you don't like relationships where you're not in control because you are afraid that if you're not in control, then what's going to happen is that the person is going to reject you. So you feel the need to stay in control, to dominate everything in an attempt to hold on to people. And I want you to hear me when I say this. No relationship is healthy where control is in it. There should never be a relationship where there's control. People try to control their pastor by they will offense. So one of the most common ways that people try to control a pastor, I can tell you, like a person will go to the pastor and talk about an issue that they have. They may say they struggle with masturbation, or they may say something like that. And then when the pastor preaches, if the pastor says anything about sexual immorality, they will say, "Thank you, Sister Nicole. God bless you." So it's a spirit. They try to control. I can tell you as a teacher, people try to control what comes out of your mouth. They do that all the time. They try to control what you say. And not only that, the chat won't give you a break. Oh my goodness. But not only that, when they don't get what they want, they'll stop coming to church. Um, they may go and complain to the pastor, but it's a spirit of witchcraft and control. What do you mean, children? I don't understand what the question is. I just see his face now. He's sleepy. He's like, that's the mom. Please go to bed, please. I'm tired. I didn't realize I was being stared at. I get this all the time. He will go some 15 minutes of staring at me like that. All right. Number 16. Last one. You are a professional victim. Milo, you ever thought about changing your life? You are a professional victim. You know, he came into the last video and barked like crazy. Now he's making an appearance these days. You are a professional victim. Meaning you always see yourself as the victim. You always place the fingers of blame. It's always somebody else's fault. We did the video earlier. And in the video, the guy, he was talking about how his wife did him wrong. And now his girlfriend had done him wrong and he killed them. And the thing about it is, when you talk to a person like that, it's hard to reason with them because they have a spirit. And the spirit is going to try to keep them from hearing the truth. But when you talk to a person like that, a lot of times they genuinely will convince themselves that they've been done wrong. He says he really isn't moving. Yes, he's sleepy. So you see them ears moving now? I can say, Auntie. There you go. Auntie? You want Auntie? There you go. Auntie? Where's Auntie? Where's Auntie? Auntie's coming? Now you see the head moving. All I have to say is trigger words. I ain't gonna say TREAT because he's had those. He already had that. He can't get no more of those tonight. He had his the bone thing and the three treats that help with digestion. He had all of them. But no, he's actually sleepy. He typically does that when he's sleepy. He gets really weird and when he's sleepy. Sometimes he will walk out of my room, go down the hallway, and sit down and then stare in the room at me. That's the weird part. So anyhow, back on that, professional victim. You're a professional victim. You always feel like people are doing you wrong. You always feel like people are talking about you. You always feel like the victim in the situation. You always feel like you were wrong. It's very hard for you to take accountability to see what role you played in your own situation. He really is. He really is. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come. He's like, are you talking to me? Okay. There we go. They need to see that you're not a statue, baby. They were thinking that mommy has stuffed you. But you see yourself as a victim in all cases. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times when people see themselves as victims, it's hard. It's hard to be with it's hard to be in a relationship with a demonized person. And it's important for me to note, and I have to say this 1,000 times. You want to build your relationship with God to the point before you get into marriage, you want to make sure you can cast out demons. You want to ask God for the discerning of spirits, and you want to make sure that you can cast demons out, because demons will get into your home at some point. Your husband can get bound on his job. He go on his job and deal with a lot of trauma from a co-worker that is trying to, or a boss that's giving him a hard time, and he can end up getting bound because of fear. He can end up getting bound. And that demon is going to come in, and Leviathan is a covenant breaking spirit. That demon will come in and start to work on even a God ordained marriage, even a marriage that God has put together. A demon will start trying to break that thing apart. A demon will try to break that thing apart. And that spirit can be in him, but you got to have enough love for God, enough Holy Spirit in you, and enough love for each other to where you can look and not get offended and say, nope, babe, can we talk? I think we need to fast. I think I need to take you through deliverance, if you don't mind. I think we need to pray. I think that this is spiritual. This is spiritual. You get annoyed with me, this is spiritual. Your annoyance with me, my annoyance with you, this is spiritual. This is not us. Remember, I told you what Leviathan does is like an alligator. It's like a crocodile. It surfaces. It's going to come to the surface of the water. In that moment when it's confronted, or if it's not confronted, it's going to go under. And what it's going to do is like a crocodile, it grabs and it starts twisting. It's going to start twisting your words. Or he may say, oh, so what you trying to say? You trying to say that I got a demon in me? I love you and I respect you. Now, I love you and I respect you. You know what I'm doing? The war is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of this dark world. I'm not hitting him because I'm not fighting him in that moment. And if you need anything, I got your back. Are you hungry? Would you like me to run you some bath water? Anything? Or is there anything you'd like to talk about? No, Timmy. You know what I just did? It's the splitting of soul and spirit. So now his human conscience is going to start kicking in. You are being really mean to somebody who's being nice to you, which helps him to pick up that something is wrong within myself. And that helps to build his trust in you, because then he realizes you're not against him, which is what that demon was trying to do, was trying to trigger you so that you can say something to make him feel like he's defending himself against you. But when you are not triggering, then what he will do is he'll likely go up in there, and many times they'll test. They're not going to say nothing at first. But if you say, hey, and you're doing everything, then he may come and he may say, hey. And I'll tell you how guys are. A lot of times he'll say, hey, pull you by your hand and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had a really hard day at work, and I would like you to pray for me. Because I do kind of feel like, I do. And then you take them through deliverance. And it's the same thing for you. Whenever you go to feeling like, I just don't feel like you love me. Baby, do you love me? He like, what are you talking about? I just, babe, I think it's time for me to take you through deliverance from rejection. Perfect love casts out fear. Perfect scripture. Perfect love means mature love. Because most of it is centered around the spirit of fear. It's time, baby, I'm taking you to deliverance from rejection. Let's go. That's how you remove 98 to 95 to 99% of the arguments in your home is by casting out demons. By recognizing it's a demonic spirit and being mindful that you don't allow the devil to say to you, because the devil will then say, once you identify that it is a demon, it will say, well, it let him. He let the demon control. So now you be over there talking about something. Now you let that demon in. You want to let that demon control you? Then you're going to drive him further into a partnership with that spirit. And this is stuff that you have to establish, honestly, in the courting process, in the dating process. You have to establish the rules of engagement in warfare. You got to establish that. How will we act? Okay. Female walks up to you. I said, babe, I'm not comfortable with her. I don't like her. But you don't see nothing wrong. You think she's cool. How do we act? Best thing, babe, is to just trust me. If it's me, pray. And you see something with me, talk to me about it. But the best thing, remember that I am guarding our marriage just like you are. Don't diminish my voice by calling me insecure when in truth I see a demon. Don't diminish my voice. Now, there could be a time where I may be wrong. It could be insecurity, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment in my part. And in a case like that, if you see a pattern of that, let's address it. Let's address it. But if you've known me to be point on, if you know, for me, if I sit there and I'm looking at a female and I just say, you say, all right. She says, hi, how you doing? You say, you're coming together as one person, because the devil's going to try to divide you. You have to come against a spirit as one person. You cannot come as two people. You cannot come divided against a demon. Demons are divided or are defeated by loyalty or unity. And you don't, and I have to say this before I close, you don't wait until you understand. Because I think this is what's destroying or causing so many denominational splits in the church, is that a lot of people who lack understanding are waiting to understand what God has revealed to somebody else. It's not for you to understand. They don't have to wait for you to understand in order to obey God. The same concept goes in marriage. If I say I'm not comfortable and I explain it and you don't understand it, you don't wait to understand, because by that time the enemy has got a leg up in the marriage. Your best out is to trust me like I have to trust you. And then we move in that together, and God will give us the understanding as we go along, even if the understanding is that the issue is me. How can you bring it back once it's already divided? By giving it over to God. You can never reconcile with somebody that is divided from God. Every relational split, every covenant relational split is split by division with God first. A split never happens with a couple first. It always happens between an individual and God first. So anytime you see a relationship breaking up, one of the people in that relationship is divided from God. At least one of them. It always it works from the head and it travels on down. It's a crack in the relationship with God that travels on down. It never starts with the couple first. It always starts first with them. I could not cheat on my husband without me going against God. So if I have the gall to cheat on a man that I'm married to, that would mean that there is something, some idolatry in my heart. There is a problem in my relationship with the Most High God. This is why you don't marry somebody who's double-minded, who's unsaved, someone who's backslidden, because they are having a problem in their relationship with God. And everything that happens on the head is going to travel down into the body. The relationship, the marriage is a part of the body. It always starts at the head. It always starts at the head first. Anytime in every relationship, if I'm one with God and He's number one in my life, and the man I'm married to is one with God and He's number one, He don't make me number one, I don't make him number one, but we make God number one, we will always be in unity with God, which keeps us together. So even when our carnality tries to act up, we have enough of a relationship with God where God will rebuke us. But if I stop in my devotional life, if I start pulling away from God, if my relationship with God begins to dry up, if I'm not getting the water of the word, then the crack is going to start in me. It's going to start in me. And once it starts in me, it's going to start showing up in my relationship. He may come home and he's like, and women are atmosphere setters. He may come home, and the thing about it is, let's say if I'm at home, the atmosphere is set by there are different components to setting an atmosphere. One is order. That means you need to clean up your house. Not just for the woman, for the man too. It's just whoever's at home. But it'll start showing up in disorder. It'll start showing up in chaos. TV blasting, house dirty, and the kids are out of order. The atmosphere has no peace. Humans need a sanctuary of peace. Every human needs that. It is a basic, it's an essential. It is something that every last one, we have to have a place of peace. What the enemy does is, if a woman, just using a woman as an example, if a woman diminishes in her relationship with God, then she will not create an atmosphere of peace. It will be an atmosphere of chaos. So it would be a house that's relatively dirty, children screaming all over the place, a TV blast, and there's no peace there. What the enemy then does, because he's attacking her, he's not just attacking her, he's attacking her household. What the enemy then does is he has an atmosphere of peace somewhere else for that man to go to, because he needs an atmosphere of peace, even if that atmosphere of peace is at his mama's house. So he's not going to want to come home, because he's going to feel the pressure, the weight of that home. He's going to feel that weight on his shoulders. It's not going to feel good. It's a horrible feeling. So now when he gets off work, he doesn't want to come home. The enemy will then try to find another woman to have a false peace in her home, so that he will break his covenant. Because when you break covenant, let me show you something. Y'all got to know how strategic the enemy is. Let me show you something. In a second. First Peter 3:7. Show you the trick of the enemy. English Standard Version. Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Above all that getting, get understanding. You got to try to understand. Don't try to argue. Pride will kill a marriage. It's a covenant breaking spirit. Leviathan is a covenant breaking spirit. You have to try to understand even when you don't understand. Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel. You have to remember she's a weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. Satan is trying to hinder the prayers of the covering. The man is the head of the home. Satan wants to hinder the prayers of the husband. So if he wants to attack, he's going to cause one person in the relationship to dry up in their relationship with God. So if I'm married and the enemy starts attacking me, because a lot of times it can start with an attack. It can be an attack on a job. It can be an attack all around. Then you get frustrated. You're not reading your Bible like you should because you got all this paperwork to do. You're frustrated. You're overwhelmed. You feel like people don't understand. The enemy is just attacking your mind. And now you're not reading your Bible like you should. You're not praying like you should. And you begin to dry up. That causes a problem in your relationship. And now in the relationship, you become condescending. You're a little bit snippy. You're not the atmosphere, you're not setting it anymore, or you're not helping to sustain an atmosphere that was already set. And in every atmosphere, think of it this way: it's a greenhouse. Every atmosphere serves like a greenhouse. So in every atmosphere, there has to be a certain temperature in order for things to survive. Your marriage dies when it goes below a certain temperature. Your marriage dies once it goes below a certain temperature. So at a certain temperature, what the enemy's trying to do is just like a greenhouse. Certain plants need certain levels of sunlight, water, or what have you. The enemy's trying to get it at a certain temperature. So what he has to do is he has to dry up one of the people's relationship with God. Then that causes the atmosphere to be just dry. It causes the atmosphere to be frustrating. And when the atmosphere is frustrating, your spirit cannot rest. So it stands at guard. So the person does not have peace. So then what the enemy does is, let's say a female on his job and says, how you doing? And he's like, I'm good. And she's like, your wife is so beautiful. I be praying for y'all all the time. I'm just so happy. So one day he keep hearing the word prayer, and he says, it's been hard. Just keep us in prayer. Sure. Is there anything you want to talk about? She's been going through some stuff lately. She's been relatively emotional and stuff, and she's just been. But I'll be all right. I mean, yeah, okay. Well, I can tell you this. When women this, and then one day she says, "Oh gosh, I gotta go home and try to figure out how to." Now she's counseled him, and one day she says, "I gotta go home and try to figure out how to bring this couch upstairs." He says, "Couch." Yeah. So my couch downstairs, I'm gonna move it upstairs because I want to change it. I'm changing my room downstairs. I want to and I got a couch that I'm gonna go purchase and stuff like that. And my brother was supposed to come over to help me with the couch, but you know how that be. He says, "I can." Oh no! I'm not. Look, you didn't help me. Thank you, Sister Trisha. God bless you. You didn't help me. It's the least I can do. I just run by. And when he go into that atmosphere, it's peaceful. He go there and he helped her take the couch upstairs. He's like, no, I got it. He helped her take the couch. She says, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate you." No, sit down. Would you like something to drink? I can't send you out. I got to at least let me feed you. Let me feed you. That's it. I ain't got to do nothing else. Let me feed you. Let me give you some water. And he's sitting up in there, and it's peaceful. It's quiet. The house is clean. Ain't no screaming kids. The TV ain't blasting. She ain't got no bad attitude. She is a graveyard for men. She has captured some major men. That spirit. When I say she, I'm talking about that demon. She says, "Let me give you something to eat." She brings him a plate. Let me show you something. Proverbs 17, 1 through 2. Reading from the Message Bible. No Yeah. Which one? We'll do I'll do Message then King James. A meal of bread and water in contented peace is better than a banquet spiced with quarrels. A wise servant takes charge of an unruly child and is honored as one of the family. That's Message. Proverbs 17, 1 through 2. Let's read that in King James. Better is a dry morsel and quietness thereof than a house full of sacrifices with strife. A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causes shame and shall have part of the inheritance. So the enemy knows the Bible. The enemy knows how the word works. So the enemy is going to try to make sure that even though he goes home to his wife, she's cooked this big feast up. There's no peace there. There's no peace there because she's under demonic attack. And because she's under demonic attack and she's surrendered to that demon, and he's not necessarily doing his part as well. Both of them are under a demonic attack and they don't necessarily realize it. So he goes over to this other woman's house and there is peace there. So better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. So while he's over there, it becomes a sanctuary. It may not start off as an affair. It may start off as a friendship, but it's a sanctuary for him. He goes over there. He's able to kick back, get counseling from her, talk, and the whole time she's building a soul tie. The whole time she's building a soul tie. And the next thing you know, she always sits on the couch because she has to build trust. She sits on the couch across from him and they talk and she becomes like a homegirl. One day she's telling him about a video. Oh, I love how this works. She tells him about a video and she says, hold on, I got to show it to you. So she gets up out of and she comes sits beside him. She said, look at this video. Look. Do you see how the devil just told you? Watch this. And she laughs. That moment, he feels respected. He's in a place of peace. She just didn't. Now, it's never been in his mind to have an affair. Even when he's going over there, he wasn't thinking about an affair. But in that moment, the Bible says flee fornication. It uses the word flee for a reason. It means to run. Because in that moment, she kisses him accidentally. Or, while she's leaning up, what have you. And then she says, look, and she turns her head. They turn their head at the same time and they lock eyes. And it creates a moment. And next thing you know, he's in the middle of an affair. This is one of the attacks of the enemy. Y'all got to hear me. You remember this word in this season, campaign. The enemy is very strategic in how he attacks a household. He is very strategic. So now the guy feels justified. He has a sanctuary he can go into to have peace. And the wife is at home losing her mind about everything that's falling apart. And now she sees that the husband, and she realizes that the husband is cheating. And now it's a whole campaign. Marriage ends and the enemy says, woo, because we're two are gathered here together in his name, in God's name, God is in the midst. He had to get God out. And it first started by getting one person to dry up in their relationship with God, to dry up in their devotional with God. Then they started distracting the other person with all the quarrels. You got to know how the enemy moves. This is why I tell you, a lot of times you're out here desiring marriage and stuff like that, and you don't even understand spiritual warfare. You will fall into one of those campaigns because the enemy is a master at that. He knows that he is a master at that. He knows how to set the stage for that kind of stuff. Let me speak to the millennials right quick, and I'm going to go. That was a professional victim. We're done with that. Let me speak to the millennials real quick, and then I'm going to let y'all go. Millennials and Gen Z, I need you to hear me, and I need you to hear me clearly. There is nothing new underneath the sun. You are not smarter than the generation that came before you. The trick of the enemy is getting y'all to think that you are smarter and that we had it all wrong. You are not smarter. There is nothing new underneath the sun. Wherever there's dishonor, there cannot be an impartation of wisdom. Please hear me when I say this. Hear me when I say this. The television media depicts what it says a marriage ought to look like. And the media or medium, the demonic medium of television tells you that trust should automatically be in a relationship to the point where you have to allow a female in your home or around your guy. You got to just wait for something to happen. So, like when you watch these movies these days, you will have a guy says, "Oh, babe, that's just a friend. I met her the other day." You sure? Yeah, we just going out to hang out. We just gonna go to dinner. And that's actually becoming normalized. Like you let your dude go on a date with a whole other female, talking about I trust him. You gotta understand. You cannot say I trust another person where there are two people involved. Even a good man could cheat. Even a good woman could cheat if they fall into the right situation. I can counsel a couple and I'll tell if a woman said, I'm leaving him because he cheated, and the man is like, man, I'm sorry, I messed up. I said, tell the story, what happened? Ah, man, I just went over to this girl house. He fell in the trap. It's a stupid trap. Pray for you learned your lesson. Because the thing about it is, the enemy knows that the Bible tells us to flee fornication. Coming from a former seductress, being around, coming from an over sexualized family, being around seductresses my entire life. Let me tell you something. And this is to anybody, but especially to my brothers. I know that you plan to be faithful, but you cannot be around a seductress and then try to utilize self-control. You can take your Bible and sit it on your lap all day long. It's not going to work. You have to remove yourself from that situation. You have to flee fornication. There's a reason the Bible says to flee fornication. Because if you sit in the space with a seductress, first and foremost, there are spirits. That atmosphere is going to shift. You're going to feel it. If you spirit, you're going to feel a shift in that atmosphere. When the atmosphere shifts, things almost feel like they're going in slow motion. And when that happens is your thoughts begin to change. Whereas you should be focusing on one thing, your thoughts start to shift. What then happens is that female that's hosting that spirit is strategic. It knows how you think, it knows how you reason, it knows what to do. When you're dealing with a seductress, please don't think she uses a one-size-fits-all formula, because she does not. If you happen to be somebody who's good and godly and you're trying to live a good life, a seductress is not going to come up to you and say, give it to me, or let's do it. A seductress is not going to come up to you and just try to seduce you. No, her goal is to cause an arousal. Put it out there point blank. Middle of the night, I feel like I can talk like this to y'all. Her goal is to get you aroused. That's it. Period. Point blank. And because once you're there, you're not thinking anymore. Now you're supposed to actually get up and run, but you're probably following culture, so you're not going to run because you don't want to look like an idiot. You're too worried about what you look like, not worried about the fact that you're about to get taken under. Read another one to you. Proverbs 7. You're going to read the entirety of Proverbs 7, I think. My son, keep my words and live my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thine heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinsman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger with flattereth with her words. For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and I beheld among the simple ones. I discerned among the youths a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night, and behold, there met with him a woman with the attire of an harlot and subtle of heart. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now she is without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner. So she caught him and kissed him, and with an impotent face said unto him, I have peace offerings with me. This day I have paid my vows. Therefore came I forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee. I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love into the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves. For the good man is not at home, he is gone a long journey. He had taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. With her much fair speech, she caused him to yield, and the flattering of her lips she forced him. He goeth after her straightway as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hastens to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for his life. Thank you, Sister Gilmarie. God bless you. It is for his life. The enemy understands the power of a soul tie. And right now, it's been normalized, having relationships, cheating, and stuff like that. People who do that, they age proportionally fast. They typically pass away from issues. It is for your life. The Bible says the dead are there. It is for your life. But the enemy is very strategic because he knows the inner workings of the mind and the body. He knows how we're wired better than we do. He knows that we need peace. And when he wants to break a relationship, he will use one person. Every divorce, every break in a relationship, all you got to do is find a person who's disconnected from God. That's it. That's how you counsel them. Find the one who's disconnected. Find the one who don't come to church. Find the one who don't pray. Find that one who is disconnected from God. You have found your issue, because the crack always starts with them and God first before it moves into the relationship. But if I'm in God and I'm surrendered, and I'm surrendered to him, and I'm giving him even my issues, and I'm in prayer. And even though I may have these carnal things, if I'm in prayer and the man I'm married to is in prayer at the same time, and what happens? What then happens is we are so much in God that we don't have too much energy to fight, because we're taking it to God. So I can sit there and have an issue and I can tell him about it. But at the same time, I'm not demanding. See, when you have a relationship with God, you can't be controlling. I'm not demanding that. I can sit there and say, I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable with this. But at the same time, I take it to God and I say, God, I don't like this. I can tell you my single season, God has me practicing that with people. I don't like this. I'm frustrated about this. But you know what, God? You are wise. You know everything. I'm looking at it from one perspective, but God, you are all knowing. You see everything. Father, give me wisdom, give me insight, give me revelation, give me instruction. I say yes to your will, even if it's uncomfortable for me. I say yes to your will. What is it that you want me to do? Because I don't want to step outside of your will. God, you are my king, my God, my rock, my strong tower, my safety, my healer, provider, deliverer. I can't do anything without you. I need you. Give me instruction, give me wisdom, give me guidance. And in that, many times God will say, peace, be still. Y'all know what that means? Y'all know what that means? Y'all know you know the carnal way of saying that. Shut up. That means don't argue with him. Your issue is not with him. The issue is between me and him, not you and him. The issue is not between me and him. It's between you and him. It's between me and him. It's coming in. Be quiet. I got this. But I need you because you're a vessel of mine. So I need you to demonstrate the love of God in the home. I need you to walk off this offense, whatever stuff you got going on, clean up your home, pray, fast, do whatever. Win him with your relationship, not with your words. Don't go argue, don't go being all confrontational. Don't change the atmosphere. And I'm going to say this, and this right here will get me in trouble with the feminists and with the world today, because on TikTok they are preaching a different gospel. But baby, I will never get caught up in a false gospel, because they have this thing on TikTok where, you have some guys coming out talking about women not, being married and not sleeping with their husbands. And then you have women coming out and they're saying that your wife body don't belong to you. Give me a second. A second. See if I can find it. All right. I'm going to offend the world with this one. So I can come from my opinion, or I can come from the word. So I'm going to come from the word, because people can argue with opinion, but they cannot argue with the word, even though they should try. 1 Corinthians 7. Now concerning, and I'm starting at 1. Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence. That means sex. And likewise, also the wife unto the husband. The wife have no power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise, also the husband have no power of his body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that you may give yourself to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. When you get married, your body does not belong to you, and his body does not belong to him. Now, it does not mean that you don't respect what the person says. Because a lot of times people start thinking about worldly folks. Well, you mean to tell me he gets to rape me? No, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. It means that you have to willfully sit back and say, even though I'm offended, even though I'm frustrated, even though I want to have a conversation, my body don't belong to me. And it has to be consensual. You have to sit back and say, consent, baby, I need to fast. So we ain't gonna be able to have sex. So can I get your green light on that? That's the word. That's the word. But if you traumatize, you hear that from a traumatized perspective, because the ear that you have is from the spirit of offense. The spirit of offense has replaced logic with offense. And then there's a Leviathan spirit on the other end that's going to twist it and throw it back out. It's going to twist it and vomit it back out. Because you're thinking about Tyrone and those dirty dudes that you dated, and thinking about having to give them due benevolence. That ain't what God talking about. He talking about with your husband, with the man that he approves. When you get saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit, and you die to yourself and you marry somebody like that, and that man is not going to be walking around the house talking about something. Yeah, I'm toxic, but you got to give it up. Because there will be times, there will be situations where the enemy tries to get in, and having sex with your spouse is a form of warfare. See, you saying, what if he's cheating? That's you're still thinking about Tyrone. And I understand it because a lot of times, when I say Tyrone, I'm talking about unsaved guys. A lot of times that's been the entirety of our experiences. That's when we're talking from that. We're talking from the entirety of our past experiences. We're not necessarily talking from, okay, I'm going to surrender to God and I'm going to let God choose my husband. Somebody who fears him, somebody who surrendered to him. Now, that's not to say that that man couldn't cheat, but it is to say you stay in God and God's got you. It is to say you stay in prayer and God will lead you. God will open the door, give you a way of escape if you need it. You just got to be careful to make sure you take that way of escape. But I want you to hear me when I say this. When we talk about that in all our honesty, honestly, it's not even bad. Like, the question is not even bad, because most people hear from that spectrum, from that world, that the only world that you've ever been in, that's what you hear from. I told you guys, one of the prophetic words I got was that over the course of my life, every man that has ever touched me has been perverted. That I was going to go through a level or a layer of deliverance when I got married, because the husband God has for me has pure hands. And so his hands aren't perverted. So that would be the first time pure hands have touched me. And I'm not talking about pure hands as far as, because, I'm not saying that every man, like, that, let's say in ministry. No, I'm talking about every man that I've ever been intimate with. It was just it was perversion. And this is why I teach against perversion, because of the brokenness. I know what God had to deliver me from. I had the fingerprints of perverted men. Thank you, Sister Latasha. God bless you. I had to prevent, but the entirety of my experiences in life, every experience I've ever had romantically with a guy, has been with somebody who was unsaved, has been with somebody who was not surrendered to God. So it's a foreign concept for me. Even though I understand what God's going to do, it's a foreign concept. It's a new experience. I'm a virgin to that experience, which is exciting. It's exciting but that's a foreign concept. So I can get it. I understand it, that when you say something like that, that the brain doesn't conceptualize it, because we've never had that encounter. We've never had that experience. Most of us have never had that experience. We've never had somebody with pure hands and a pure heart to touch us in a pure way. It's foreign to us. It's foreign to us. That's why a lot of times, women, when we come out of those type of scenarios, the only thing we understand is perversion. So the whole time you're getting ready to marry the man that God has anointed and ordained for you, you're probably thinking, oh, he's saved and he's been in church his whole life. I'm about to wear him out. He don't know nothing. No, God will deliver you from that. That's the perversion that you got from the world. That's twisted. That's perversion. And you end up having an intimate encounter with your husband and not a perverted encounter. Because perverted guys, all they thinking about is, I'll say that and I'm going to close. I'm going to close now. I got to get off of here because we had 4 hours. A lot of you, and to my brothers as well, you've never had clean hands on you. I don't believe that prophetic word was just for me. I believe that it was for many of you, the majority of you, if to be honest. Never had clean hands on you. And so consequently, you're traumatized. And because there's a level of trauma there, even when you're talking about feminism and stuff like that, a lot of times women are traumatized. When you start talking about submitting to your husband, they're not hearing submitting to somebody that they can trust. They're thinking about their past. They're thinking about men who hurt them, men who dogged them out. You telling me that I gotta. So that's what they hear. That they're not hearing, because the enemy disconnected their eardrum. They're hearing from, there's a drum, an eardrum of offense, and then there's a leviathan at the end of that. Or what have you. Thank you, Sister Shavonda. I really appreciate you, sis. But that's what they're hearing. They're hearing from that. And so one thing God has to do in our single season is that we have to surround ourselves with good, godly people. We got to get wisdom, knowledge, and understanding so that God can disconnect the spirit of offense disconnect the spirit of fear. These are guarding spirits, and disconnect those things so that we can hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying and we can prepare. Because there's going to come a time when many of you, for the first time, you're going to have pure hands on you. And when I say pure hands, because I'm trying to be careful, because I don't want to sound like I'm saying that even when you go to church, those are not pure hands. No, those are pure hands. In many cases, I can genuinely say this. I believe that what God does is the first set of pure hands that you're probably going to experience is going to be a church where you're getting prayed for, and you have to become comfortable with that, that experience we're having. I don't see why people are being uncomfortable, but I do know some women, they have been, and I've been through severe trauma growing up or what have you. But at the same time, for me, I'm just not one of those people that think everybody's trying to get with me. I'm not one of those people that think, what have you. I don't overthink things, but a lot of women who's dealt with sexual trauma do. And so they have to be very careful. Men have to be very careful of how they lay their hands on them. Well, like when praying for them and stuff like that. But there has to come a time where you have to come out of perversion in order to get the one, so God can give you someone that He approves. And you have to come out of that so that He can, oh, congratulations, Sister Felicia. God bless you, sis. Really excited for you. But you have to come out of that, and then you have to wait, and you got to go through the process, and the process will starve you out. During the process, it's going to cause other demons that are there to begin to manifest. I can tell you from experience. During the process, when I'm talking about process, I'm not talking about process to the husband. I'm talking about your process and your relationship with God. Now, you may have it in your head that you're waiting for the husband, but God doesn't have that in His head. In His mind, He's saying, I'm delivering this person. This person is going through deliverance. I'm developing her to the vessel that I've designed her to be for her assignment. But in your head, you think, okay, I'm going through this process for my husband. God is pulling that stuff out of you, and that stuff is going to start manifesting. That stuff going to start manifesting, the sabotage, ready to quit, the anger, the frustration, the fear, all of those things are going to manifest as they become, and people will witness all of these things coming to the surface with you, but you have to witness it as well. You have to not only witness it, but you got to call it out. You got to say, hey, listen, God, I want this. I think deliverance is for a lifetime. I think that you can go through a full deliverance right now and be free of demons, but I think that you will get bound again because you're human. Somebody gonna scare you. Somebody gonna make you offended. But you have to go through the process to let God purge that stuff out of you and to give you a different world. You have to get away from the toxic people. You got to get around some good godly people. Get yourself in a good church home, and you have to go through a process with God purifying your mind before He brings you into a marriage. If not, then you will allow the enemy to cause you to twist your husband. I'll show you this. Let's say your husband is saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit. He's been in church his whole life, love the Lord, and he's pure. But all you know how to be is a freak. You'd have been out in the streets with Tyrone in. You done learned all of these different moves, and that's what you know. You think God's going to put you in contact with that pure man for you to do all that stuff to him? Because what you're doing is bringing Tyrone in the bedroom with him. You're going to be trying to spring him. No, he's going to be sprung. Now you're going to be locking legs with the man and flipping him all over the bed and got him and stuff like that, and you're pulling his hair and all of that. And dude don't know what's happening to him. He's just like, I ain't never had it happen. And you think you're doing something. But that's not the will of God. He wants you to have worship encounters, very similar to worship encounters with your husband. So He has to take you through a purging process. He has to take you through a healing process. All right? Pray for the Lord. That's right. That He starts to prepare your hearts. He prepares your mind. I don't pray for God to prepare me for my spouse. I pray for God to prepare me for Himself, for Him. By doing that, He prepares me because I feel like I don't want to pray for God to prepare me for this when God is so much greater. So I say, God, prepare me for you. Use me. I say yes to your will. Have your way with me. I am your daughter. I trust you. I love you, and I honor you. Have your way. And I just let Him have His way. I love y'all. I'm about to get off of here so I can go climb my tail in the bed. I pray that you guys were blessed by today's message, and I hope that this helped you in so many ways. I hope that you got something from this. And I pray that you guys have an amazing, amazing night. It's funny. My dog always know I'm closing out. Milo. Okay. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.